Mid-Murray Council would like to acknowledge and pay respect to the traditional custodians of the land, Mandurri, Maywong, Mangaraku, Narkat, Nurrunjeri and Paramount peoples of the Mid-Murray lands and waters. It is upon their ancestral lands and waters that the Mid-Murray Council meets and operates, and Council pays respect to elders past and present and their spiritual beliefs are of continuing importance to those First Nations peoples of today. Council further acknowledges the contributions and important role that First Nations people continue to play within the community, and we extend that respect to any peoples in attendance here today. And welcome, we have someone in the gallery today, so I'll just go through our emergency procedures. Should there be a fire or other emergency, the alarm will sound and you'll be asked to follow directions of staff. Council meetings are live streamed through the Mid-Murray Council website. Attendance and participation in the council meeting does not provide any councillors, council employees or member of the public protection from defamation in relation to behaviour or statements made. Individual opinions or statements made during the council meeting are not the opinions or statements of council. A copy of today's agenda is available on the council's website. Members are reminded that if they intend to move, speak, second, or ask a question during the meeting, they need to clearly indicate their intention to speak by using the microphone system. It is important that members use their microphones appropriately so those at home can hear clearly. Members are reminded that the use of mobile phones during the meeting is not permitted, and I ask that you turn your phone off or to silent. And we welcome the visitors in the gallery. We ask them to observe the meeting in a respectful silence as the chamber deliberates on matters that relate to the Mid-Murray Council. Council meetings are formal meetings that are subject to specific meeting procedures. This means that they are designated sections of the meeting, deputations, where members of the public can directly interact in the meeting, with the remainder of the meeting only providing the public with an opportunity to listen to meeting procedures in an observer role. Thank you, everyone. So attendance, we have apology from Councillor McGregor, and we have been attending online today. Confirmation of minutes. We just need somebody to move that the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on the 20th of May 2025 be taken as read and confirmed. Councillor Barber, thank you. Seconder, Councillor Tochik, thank you. Do we have any comments, questions, discussion? If not, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour and against, that is carried. Thank you. Declaration of interest pursuant to Division 1, Part 4 of Chapter 5 of the Local Government Act 1999. Council members have disclosed general or material conflicts of interest in relating to items of business on this agenda. With the state of
No, I do. Am I on?
Go.
There we go. I will declare of conflict of interest at item 10.6 and 12.1.
Thank you.
I think it's fine. Yeah, I declare a conflict of interest at 10.6 and 12.1 also. Thank you.
And if you'll just repeat that when we get to it. Business adjourned is nil. Deputations is nil. Petitions is nil. Deputations, the public is able to have a deputation with regards to the annual business plan. So we're opening that up now. We'll open that up now, and so we have an hour where it's open for the public to make a deputation. If anyone from the public wishes to make a deputation, just let us know. Okay. So petitions is nil, and the first report is 9.1, monthly financial report, May 2025. The recommendation is that the monthly financial report, May 2025, on the council agenda of 17th of June 2025 be received. We have a mover. Councillor Myers, thank you. Seconder, Councillor Schultz, thank you. Councillor Myers, do you wish to speak on that?
Only that it's good.
Excellent, thank you. It's always good. We love finance. Councillor Schultz, no. Anybody else have any questions or wish to speak? If not, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour and against, that is carried. Thank you. 9.2 is formal submissions, draft annual business plan and budget and the draft long-term financial plan. And just a reminder, anyone in the room, we haven't had any requests to speak in support of submissions at the council meeting. But it is open for the next hour if anybody wishes to speak. Do we need to leave that motion until the end because we're considering feedback? Wait till his council consider the feedback received from public consultation. We can still consider that. Sure. Okay. So the recommendation is that the formal submissions of the draft annual business plan and budget and the draft long-term financial plan report on council agenda 17th June 2025 be received, and that council consider the feedback received from public consultation on the draft annual business plan and budget 25-26 and the draft long-term financial plan 25-26 to 2034-35. Have we got a mover? Thank you, Councillor Hammond, and a seconder, Councillor Barber. Thank you, Councillor Hammond. Do you wish to speak? No. Thank you, Councillor Barber. Anybody else wish to speak or have any questions? No. I just want to say thank you to the people that put in some consultation or some submissions. It's good to see that people are still paying attention, and we do take on board the cost of living crisis, and I know that councils around the table are very concerned with that, and we will try our best to lower that if we can. So if there's no one wanting to speak, we'll just put that motion up. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. Okay. 9.3 is end of year work in progress, June 2025. The recommendation is that the end of year work in progress, June 2025 report on the council agenda of the 17th of June be received. The council approve the continuation of committed and or incomplete works underway as at 30th of June 2025, as identified in the approval to continue works in progress as at 30 June 2025, on the condition that the total budget for identified projects does not exceed the combined budgets for 24-25 and 25-26, and that the final carryover amounts will be advised as part of the September budget review. Do we have a mover? Councillor Barber, thank you. A seconder, Councillor Miles, thank you. Councillor Barber, do you wish to speak? No. Councillor Myers, no. Anybody else wish to speak or have questions? Yes, Councillor August.
Just thinking. I only have one comment. I've just noticed that the wording in the discussion and the analysis, it says including the Play Your Way grant. I just want to note that it's actually the Play Our Way grant, so it's just worded wrong in there. That's all.
Thank you. Did note that last night. I was going to go back and have a look which one it was.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any further questions, comments, discussion? If not, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour and against, that is carried. Thank you. Adoption of fees and charges for 25-26. The recommendation is that the adoption of fees and charges for 25-26 report on the council agenda 17th of June be received, and that pursuant to section 188 of the Local Government Act, the fees and charges for the year ending 30 June 2026 be presented in attachment 1 to this report, be adopted by council. Do we have a mover? Councillor Schultz, thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Davis, thank you. Councillor Schultz, do you need to speak? No. Councillor Davis, no. Anybody else?
Sorry, I do have another
Don't
thing.
be sorry.
Don't be sorry.
We love you speaking up.
I just wanted to ask a question through you, Simone, or through the mayor. I note that there's nothing on there about the leases, in the leases and license policy. There is a $300 minimum fee for sporting clubs. I just note that that's not, I couldn't find it on the fees and charges register in the agenda. I also had another question. Does anyone have any answers to that? Sorry, I'm jumping ahead here. Should it be in there?
Through you, Mayor Bailey, we'll take that under notice, as obviously it's outlined in the policy. So we'll take it under notice of whether it needs to be included in the fees and charges register.
Thank you.
Thank you. I also just had a question about the standpipe fees. Do we need to have that listed anyway in the fees and charges because it's a fee that we're setting? Or is that set? by higher powers.
It used to be.
It's in there.
It is in there.
It is in
Yeah,
there?
yeah, it
Okay,
is.
beautiful. I just missed it.
Yep.
Perfect.
Oh, do you have something else? You look like you want to talk.
Yeah, just for the chair, I suppose as far as the fees for the sandpipes, it may change quite a lot from year to year, depending on the usage. So obviously, the more water gets put through, obviously, that covers to a greater extent your fixed costs. So I think that's something that councils should just highlight, that will change depending on the environmental conditions and that requirement or demand for the water.
Thank you, Clive. I do hope that once we have this automation that we can actually reduce it, make it more affordable for people that need water. I did dig out a few things last night that I guess you'll take on board and bring back if needed. There are just a few odd wording and things like that. Any further questions or comments?
Through you, Mayor Bailey. Clive, did you have some changes that you wanted to mention as part of that report?
Yeah, just for the chair, there's just a bit of inconsistency as far as the terminology where we talk about mid-Murray community groups, a not-for-profit and also commercial/for-profit. So what I'll do is just amend the register for those to be consistent through the document, and those two terms to be private/not-for-profit and commercial for-profit. And there's also one small alteration with the squash courts. 30-minute session was not incremented by 5%, so that'll go from $10 as stated there to $10.50. And on page 58, there was just some text there which related to the application of a mobile food street vendor permit, where it's got actually pro rata charge applies if applicable. It's actually not applicable because it's at the initial application, so I'll just remove that from the register as well.
Clive, do we need additional wording to allow Clive to do that?
So maybe just as the amendments as advised in the meeting. Yeah.
So Councillor Schultz and Councillor Davis. With minor adjustments as
Yes.
discussed.
As advised, yeah.
And sorry for picking them up at 11:30.
That's fine.
So it's the sixth time I read it that I find things like that. So Councillor Schultz, you're okay. Councillor Davis, you're okay. Any further discussion, feedback, comments? If not, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour and against, that is carried. 9.5, Swan Reach Swims Prudential Report. The recommendation is that the prudential report be received. Do we want to? Yeah, so it is a really important matter. Is it okay with the room that we suspend for 10 minutes to have a really good discussion on this? I'm getting lots of other heads, so it looks like we've got 3/4 or 2/3 of the room. So we'll suspend for 10 minutes from 9:44 AM and have a good discussion. Ben, would you like to start or Clive, anyone?
Look, I'll just probably make the comment through you, Mayor Bailey, that we'll consider report 11.8 straight after this, given that they are obviously linked. Clive can talk to his prudential report. Also acknowledge David Eggers, who's in the room from the LGA, can answer any questions on the information that's contained. Obviously a really important opportunity for the township, and we thank the LGA for their support with the funding. So Clive, maybe do you want to talk to your prudential report and then we can talk to 11.8 after?
Yeah, just for the chair, I've prepared a prudential report. So basically, the LGA, which is funded from the state government, gets an allocation of money. They do a calculation on the proposal that we have here, which is basically like the draft design or the initial design. They use a whole life scheme, and that's based on the whole of life then a reduction or, then the subsidy is calculated less the subsidy, less the standard connection fee for SA Water, which would charge, and obviously that gets reviewed on an annual basis, and also the revenue that would be normally generated by the annual SA Water charge based on the average capital value of the properties which are involved with the scheme. So, at the moment, the standard SA Water connection fee is $7,405, and the SA Water sewage fee based on the average property value at the moment for Swan Reach would be calculated at approximately $400. So the result is there's quite a substantial subsidy. The construction costs at the moment are about $7.5 million. The LGA subsidy is about $7.2 million. And that actually helps not only subsidise the construction costs, but also subsidise the ongoing operating costs throughout the 50 years that they do the calculation on. The equivalent SA Water connection fee, based on the amount that I've told you previously, generates about a $1.33 million. So part of that initial connection fee covers the net contribution which would be required by council, but in the end, there's nearly $1 million left in the fund after construction. I'm calculated on these current figures, so about $989,000. So through the report, I've actually stepped out in my view that there's probably about five different stages. There's this concept design stage, then there's decision for council to proceed or not with the project. Then next step is obviously the design stage, and the cost of that is approximately about $400,000, and that's covered by the scheme also. And that's where they'll do some more detailed surveying, drilling, soil tests, and look at specifics of the scheme to a lower detail. And then we'll go on to the tender process, which is, I've kind of got figured there probably about $40,000, which once again is covered by the LGA scheme. And then you've got the construction and variation, which gives us obviously the final costs. And at that stage, the LGA subsidy will be based on the estimated operating costs of the scheme over the 50 years, and also the actual construction costs. So if the construction costs increase throughout those stages that we go through, obviously the LGA scheme will alter their subsidy to cover any of that shortfall. So that gives obviously quite confidence to council and covers the risk of increasing costs. In reviewing the model, figures which are presented on net present value, which looks at the forward costs and actually brings them back up to today's terms. I did a bit of a different calculation in looking at the cash flow of the scheme going forward, much to similar that you would see in our long-term financial plan. So during that process that I went through, there was a negative cash flow in the period between 20 and 50 years. So around that period of time, there's considerable or like a phase of renewal of assets. And I looked at that, went back to the scheme, we had discussions, and the reason why that occurred was at the end of the scheme, there's actually some value left in the assets. So it actually just doesn't, it's not like having a vehicle and say it's going to last 50 years, and at the end, you know, it actually just falls apart. There's some, with the scheme, there's actually some residual value left in that. So that residual value, because it's not actually being covered by the subsidy, has to be kind of recovered in some way. So my suggestions are that within the prudential report, I'm actually saying that at the commissioning of the scheme, that the CWMS service fee is set to cover the budgeting annual operating expenses. So basically it retains that approximately $1 million that we got, if you like, put into the fund in advance, and that doesn't get eroded through at least the 20 years. And then that nest egg, let's say, is actually retained there, and is available to cover the first of like the major renewals. The other thing that I've actually put into the report is that at probably about a period of 15 years, and that was chosen because that would have been the period of time when the people take the option to have the 15-year connection amount paid over the 15 years. That council would then look at the operations of the CMWS scheme and look at the forward projections, because at that period of time, there'll be a wealth of knowledge of how the scheme operates and any future renewals that are required. When we get to that 15 years, our council at that stage would have probably been into its third stage of reviewing the CWS scheme, because on an average, we look at those every 5 years. And then probably have, as I said, a high degree of assurances of what those assets need to be revised or renewed in around that 20 years time. I'll also say that when looking at figures, some of the useful lives and the expenses are conservative, in saying conservative, they're to the advantage to council. So some of those assets may well live a lot longer than it's actually in the model, and also the costs overall are quite reasonably to cover that. So the basis of the subsidy has sound ground, and there was only one item that I picked up, and there have been discussions with the LGA about justifying full cost attribution, basically the administration costs, and that they be put into the model, and they've actually come back and said that's not an issue, and I've just got to give that information to them and obviously be justified, and that once again would also be subsidised to the full costs. I've also highlighted that after a period of time, around that 15 years or even possibly earlier, council's plans are actually to dispose of the water at this stage to the golf course. Maybe at that period of time, around the 15 years, council look at whether they can earn some revenue from that type of disposal. I suppose why wouldn't you do it earlier? I suppose people would say there may be issues, there may be set up costs for anybody that you actually work with to dispose of that water in the initial stages. And I suppose further down the track, it becomes the norm that they become reliant on it, and that once again the two parties would be very comfortable in what's provided and involved in quantity, etc.
Sorry, Clive, we've just gone out of our 10 minutes, so
Yep.
yes, okay with the room if we go another 10 minutes, just nod a head, yep, you agree, yep, gotcha, thank you, Clive.
Yeah, so basically that's my summary. We have got David Eckman from the LGA scheme as well. I'm sure that you would like to add anything to that.
I think you've summarised it quite well. It's an opportunity. The renewal costs are best practice. In theory, I mean, across all of your assets, and I see it everywhere. While we say renew it in year 10, it generally gets to year 12, 13, 14, pushes that down the track, which has an impact on the grant to council's benefit. It's a great opportunity. So I just, when I've all spoken, the cycle water does get sold right across the state, and it's a bigger commodity. I think we talk about standpipes and water use before, so it is a real asset to the township as well. I'll just open up any questions to support what I've said. I do concur that the concept design is put together by an engineer. They probably don't pick up all the council administrative costs that go with a scheme. If we do go to detailed design, we will pick those up as part of an upgraded subsidy costing, because it is a legitimate charge that goes to the program of this scheme, so that will be included.
Thank you, David, and thank you, Clive, for the work that's gone into that credential. I know for me, you know, it's a big project for council, $7 million project, and to have that sort of information to go with it, and with the LGA working hand in hand, it, you know, it definitely decreases the risk and the worries that we have.
Mayor Bailey, can I suggest if there's any specific questions on the prudential report, and then we maybe bring Dave, Caroline and Gary into the conversation to then talk and answer any questions on the next report.
Yeah, sure. Does anyone have any questions with the prudential report? If not, we will go on to the discussions on the 11.8, I think it is, the other report. And we have Caroline here as well as David. So does anyone have any questions with the whole Swan Reef swim scheme? And I really love Councillor Myers. You've been through 2 other schemes over your time. Yeah, your feedback would be highly valued.
No, I've just got a question in regards to Chris Carter. If he ever develops that land he's got. I mean, he's been doing it for many, many years and nothing's happened, but I'm just curious.
So you want to know if it can be extended later to hook up, because Chris sent us all an email last night.
Yeah, I am aware of that, yeah. So through the chair, so the funding only covers existing allotments at this stage. So if people want to connect into the infrastructure that's in place, they can do so. We have a policy in place for that, which is the additional connections to SWIM's policy. So there is scope there to.
But have you got the capacity?
So that's something that we look at in detailed design phase, whether we can sort of do some additional capacity. And David, I might just get you just maybe to explain how the funding works with future growth, because we are,
Sure. So basically the size of the infrastructure we build is based on design guidelines of 2.6 people per property at 170 litres per person per day, which is a design capacity across the state. Different townships have more people, less people, higher density, less density. So that's the design of the size of the treatment plant. Once you connect people, you get a feel for how much water is coming in, coming out, which can facilitate growth. Once we do build that though, if a developer does come along and wants to make a contribution, we can make it larger, which is probably aligned with the development policy of council. As the LGA, we can't fund developers to build infrastructure larger for their benefit, but we can work with council and or developers as we develop this over time to make it larger and cater for growth.
So we're virtually looking at anybody wanting to, it's like user pays.
Yes.
Yes. Yep, which aligns with the National Water Pricing Initiative, which is a national document.
So just on that, you know, there is potentially scope for us to put in perhaps bigger pipe work now to cater for that growth later on. So
I'll add, Caroline, under the design principles, we do make the whole network at least 20% larger because a lot of the townships we fund in the CWMS are regional. So you have long weekends and Christmas and holiday breaks where the flow actually peaks because of demand in those townships. So we do apply peaking factors in the design guidelines to allow for those periods. So that is factored into the design growth. So automatically you do get some capacity in the system because of the peaking factors. There is a design criteria which is standard across the state, which we utilise.
But I do believe you're not connecting Mark's Landing into it. Right.
Caroline, my question, all of the surveys, you know, a lot of them had the number at the bottom of we definitely called all those people, contacted all those people. And thank you very much for the work that you've done with the community, the feedback that we've had, that they feel comfortable. You know, there's a bit of a trust there, which you rarely get with council. So thank you for the work. You're the right person for that job.
I have some questions in regards to it. Just from reading the responses from people that were opposed, I mean, we had a great overwhelming sort of feeling that people who are in the town that have struggling systems already, one woman was mentioned in our briefing that hers is already at failure essentially, this will be a few years down the track before this process really is developed. So in that time frame, people that are at that desperate need already would probably need to be upgrading their systems in that interim of that time anyway, if they are at a dire situation. What a lot of the feedback I've got from people that seem that they're opposed are, if you've just put in an EnviroCycle of your own at a cost of 35,000, your own treatment plant on a property, doing the right thing, because septics shouldn't be on the floodplains, and this is a great idea, and I do think this is important for the environment and for so many reasons. But you know, if you've got a good working EnviroCycle at $40,000 you might have spent 5 years ago to do the right thing of upgrading your property, and now you're being advised you're going to have to pay $7,000 to enter into a swim system where all of a sudden that recycled water is going up to the golf course, and you're not being able to use it to water your own garden like you have been effectively, and with a system that is got a lifespan of about 50 years. For those people, I feel like it does feel like, well, what is the incentive for me to want to then come into this swim system, and why should it be mandatory for those people that have done the right thing for the environment, have spent the money and invested on their properties for proper recycle treatment plants of their own that are managed? And I know I've got one and it's great, and yeah, they have a lifespan of, you know, 40 years. And so it would be a huge expense for those people that have just outlaid a pretty serious expense for the well-being of their property. And so how can we make it so there is a leeway there for those residents that are really very strongly opposed?
So through the chair, that's a fair question. And throughout the whole public consultation period, there was only one person that was in that situation.
Okay.
So look, if, for example, in Truro, a lot of people have EnviroCycles there. So council developed a policy where the people, they were connected, but they had the choice to have a valve installed where they could either use that water on their garden during the summer, and then if it got too wet by some miracle in winter, they could turn that valve and the water would just go straight into our swim system. And they also do have reduced annual service charges as well, because they are reusing some of that water on their garden. What we are finding though is that people are failing to keep up their maintenance. So these systems need to be serviced every 3 months, and it's quite a cost for some of these people. So I think people, once they realise they can just easily switch the valve and pump into a swim system, we're finding a lot of people are getting lax with the maintenance side of things, and they're just diverting it straight to the swims anyway. So yeah, so there are different options we can look at, but like I said, there was only one person that contacted me to discuss that exact issue.
Right.
Yeah.
Caroline, did we look at DAs to see how many new systems we've had in Swan Reach over the last 5 years?
Yes, put that in the report, and the number of wastewater applications as well.
Yeah. Any further questions, Councillor Marla?
Yeah, through the chair, there's sort of a public perception that the swim schemes, the money for like 5%, the almost $1 million sitting there that's going to be in that fund. There's a bit of a public perception that that gets used in other systems. So can I just, yeah, I know Clive's shaking his head, but I just want to make it clear that that money will stay with that system, that there will be a fund just for that system and won't be used anywhere else.
And Clive's previously given us reports with what each fund got, so there's proof, evidence that happens. We have Brady Council. We're up to
Through you, Mayor Bailey. Sorry, you need to extend the time, or Clive is going to provide a response to that question, is he?
Yeah. Yeah, so on an annual basis, the council keeps a detailed accounting system on the 28 schemes. I'll have a summary that I distribute to anyone that wants to receive that. I actually sent that off to Scotts Creek Shack Association last night, so they could see where they were. And also we actually, in our annual business plan, we actually have the details of the fund balance and what the change of the costs are on an annual basis from one year to another as well.
Thank you. Well, can we just extend it another 5 minutes? Everyone happy with that one? 5 more minutes? Thank
So
you.
just add one comment. When you talk about people who may not want to connect, you still own the capacity of that network. So next time a subdivision or something else happens, you can resell that capacity if someone doesn't connect to someone else who can then join the system. So it does allow growth and other benefits to people in the community, where other people do not connect. So whilst it's an issue for one property, that capacity is still there in the pipe and the treatment plant, etc. And the next subdivision that comes along, it's a lot easier for someone else to connect and not put infrastructure in. So there are ongoing benefits if someone does opt out. You know, just get you over the scheme, and there are alternatives.
Excellent. And that will be all of that in detailed design, will it? Yeah. Any further questions or comments? This is the time.
Just, I have one more, sorry.
Yes.
Just from the feedback on the form, someone also mentioned in regards to those that are on the floodplains that are going to be pressurized systems. That if say you're a holiday owner, holiday home person, you come down, say, a couple of weekends a year, maybe a bit more over summer. Is there any, like the situation, people concerned that it's not being used enough, like not regular use to their individual outlets of a pressurized system if they're not there, like the fault that could perceive, like I think people are like, oh, it's a pressurized system, but if I'm not there and not using any water for 4 or 5 months, what would that do to their connection, or whether that would have any ability of faulting or anything? That was just something that was, I noticed in one of the surveys. I just wanted to bring that up here so they can get a response.
So through the chair, obviously we operate 28 of these schemes across the council area, predominantly in shack areas. Half of these are pressurised systems already. So we find that they are the best system for floodplain. They're easier for us to manage. And what will happen is it doesn't matter if they're using it every day or if they're using it every 5 months. Basically, there's water that sits in the bottom of that chamber that covers the pump so it doesn't seize. And the flow, the design of the system caters for that peak and loading like David has said previously here. So yeah, it's a similar system to the other ones we've got. We're not new to this project. So yeah, it'll be fine.
No one else got any questions? I'd just like to add, at risk of repeating myself, I've said it in the briefing, but I do feel like the public, including the advertiser, doesn't quite understand the great things that council do in the swims area, and you know, especially with the support of LGA. Just last week, they ran an article on Mount Barker and how much debt they're in, but a lot of it is because they're doing an SA water job that councils in the city don't do. So I really highly value if LGA could run some sort of, you know, frequently asked questions, or, you know, throw the actual truth out there, because like Councillor Barber said, there's been some rumours going around some towns that, oh, council just doing this to make $1 million. Oh, we wish we could make $1 million. You know, we're doing this to support our town, to support the environment. And because we're not in the city and having SA Water do this for us, like some of our towns like Mannum are lucky we have it, but others don't. And it isn't fair that people, say in Mannum, that are paying SA Water have to, you know, add to these service schemes. So that's what we do have to account for them separately. And it, you know, isn't a typical council role that not every council does. So that is it from me. Any further, and I'll probably bring up in Sarah again too. Council Myers.
Just one quick one from Caroline. On the 56 flood line, how many connections are actually going to be below it? Wouldn't be a lot, would it?
Actually, good question. Off the top of my head, I think there might be just about 20-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a huge number.
All pressure.
Yeah, all pressurised.
Thank you. Any further questions? If not, we'll go back into the meeting. And we're on item 9.5. And the recommendation is that the Swan Reach Swims Prudential Report on the council agenda of 7th of June 25 be received. Do we have a mover? Councillor Myers, thank you. Councillor Warhurst, thank you. Any, would you like to speak on that, Councillor Myers?
I think we've said no.
Yes, Councillor Warhurst, anybody else wish to speak or final questions on the Prudential Report? If not, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour? Against, that is carried. Thank you. Now, just to be a real pain, we'll just flip down to 11.8 while it's fresh in our minds. And the recommendation is that the Swan Reach Township Community Wastewater Management System Concept Design Project Report on the council agenda of 17th of June 2025 be received. And that council authorises the CEO or their nominee to write to the Local Government Association of South Australia Swims Management Committee requesting a funding allocation to proceed to detailed design and construction of a community wastewater management system for the Swan Reach Township. We have a mover, councillor Barber, thank you. Councillor Hammond is seconding that. Councillor Barber, do you wish to speak on that?
Through the chair, there was obviously some concerns by some of the landowners about the cost involved in joining the system, but I think the option that council have allowed people as far as the payment plan, I think is a very generous and affordable solution. So yeah, I think it's good for the township.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hammond.
I'd also like to say that I think it's the right thing for the environment and that it's good that we're doing this for this community. Well overdue.
Anybody else wish to speak? Councillor Schultz?
That was actually going to be my sentiment too. Yes, it's got to be done. It's environmentally friendly. It's just, there's no question about it.
It's the future.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? Caroline?
I'll just say my final piece, thank you. I'd really just like to acknowledge and thank the Swan Reach community throughout the public consultation process. Normally these projects do instill a lot of anger and emotion in the community. It has been evident in previous projects we've done, but there's absolutely no hostility or anger. And if people were against it, they actually came up and apologised to me afterwards about it. So I really just want to thank that community and what a fantastic community we do have in our region.
Yeah. They asked for special. Ben?
Bailey, I'll just, pass to Caroline or Gary. Do you want to make any comments on the report before council consider the motions?
Caroline? Try again.
Please, Chair. I'd just really like to say I do acknowledge that, this may impose some financial burden, but I think a lot of work's gone on behind the scenes with the council staff to consider that, to look at options, and we have taken on board what people have said throughout the consultation period. So we're looking at other options as well, even though we don't know if the project will proceed or not. So I think that's evident that we're committed to making this work for the community.
Thank you. Any further questions, comments, or anyone wish to speak on the motion? If not, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour? And against, that is unanimous. Thank you very much. And thank you to the LGA. Thank you to Caroline and the team and to everyone that's been involved. I think it's a great project and it's going to be great for the town of Swan Reach, and let's see them prosper. Thank you. Okay, what are we up to now?
9.6.
9.6, full attribution policy. Just come at the right time to bring more things in. Thank you, Clive. The recommendation is the full cost attribution policy report on the council agenda 17th of June 2025 be received, and that council adopts the draft full cost attribution policy. Have we got to move up? Councillor Tochick and Peake, thank you. A seconder. Councillor Schultz, thank you. Councillor Tochick and Peake, do you wish to speak?
Thank you. Through the mayor, yes. Just to say this is terrific that we're doing this. I think it's absolutely the appropriate direction to go in, and obviously it's been an enormous amount of work to look at this as well. Live. So thank you very much for that work that you've done. And I think it is extremely important to have this policy.
You, Councillor Schultz, do you wish to speak?
I just have a couple of corrections.
Yeah,
Love it.
On page 1, under point 2 definition on the 4th line, an extra S has been added after the word basis. Someone just nervous. And then point 3, 3.1, the last line, it reads activity, good or service in financial statement. Should that be statements? That's where that missing extra S went.
Thank you.
Walkabout.
Any further comments or questions? I just want to say a very big thank you to Clive and his team. I remember being accountant about 9 years ago and we were talking about this. So the fact that it's here, and while he's been doing prudential reports and end of financial year and all those other things. Clive, you're amazing, you can never leave. Is that right, Ben? Any further comments? If not, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour and against, that is carried. Thank you. 10.1 infrastructure and field services summary report. The recommendation is that the infrastructure field services summary report on the council agenda the 17th of June 2025 be received. Do we have a mover? Councillor Barber and Councillor Law first. Seconding that, Councillor Barber, do you wish to speak?
Through the chair, yeah, just one comment regarding the section about the new walkway between Mannum Waters and Mannum Township, where it goes across the cemetery car park. I frequent the car park, and there's a big palm tree that needs quite a bit of trimming back, because to avoid driving on the walkway, you're basically risking scratching your car up on this big palm tree. So I just wanted to highlight that. And a very good report. Thanks, Dave.
Through the chair, there is still some works to be undertaken at that site. We're putting rocks behind there to prevent people driving across the trail, and also looking at like focusing the access point in there, and then later on looking at how we can achieve better car parking without actually cars crossing that walkway. So we're trying to protect that area now and make it more feasible.
Dave, Councillor Warhurst, no, anybody else wish to speak or have any questions? The only thing I had highlighted was all about LCRIPs. Are they all going to be finished by June 30? How are you feeling about that, Dave?
Through the chair, the playgrounds are nearly finished. The cemetery works are nearing completion. The Anna Street walkway is being completed this week. And the rollout of the 7 lights, we had discussions with them last Friday, and we're looking at obviously commencing that ASAP to get it all finalised. There may be a bit of a transition in the new year, but all the invoices will be sorted by the 30th of June.
Wonderful, thank you very much. Your team is amazing. The dump, is that in the same?
Through the chair, the Canberra landfill had about $1.1 million that we've drawn down on that through the development process. So I think we had about $800,000 left of that to spend from LRCIP 3, which had to be done by the end of May to be reconciled by the 30th of June. We have had a minor extension to be able to reconcile that. We are meeting on site at Canberra to facilitate the mobilisation of commence all works there to draw down on the remainder of the LRCIP 3, which will spend that money, and then we'll be into our own, which won't have any implications on the LRCIP funding itself.
Wonderful, thank you very much. Any further questions or comments? If not, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour and against, that's carried. 10.2 recreational vehicle dump points. The recommendation is that the recreational vehicle dump points report on the council agenda of 17th of June 2025 be received, and that council adopt a service level provision that any proposed recreational vehicle dump points on council land are to be funded by external funds, and that this be included in the draft service provision policy. Do we have a mover? Councillor Myers, thank you. And a second, Councillor Hammond, thank you. Councillor Myers, do you wish to speak?
Just a comment to say that the first one of these that was installed in the Mid-Murray was cadet. That was fully funded by the community themselves. There was no council money went into that. And because we have a full-time caretaker there, we don't have issues with people dumping. I won't use the word, but anyway. Yeah, so I think that's half the problem, like with Blanchetown, the issues they've had in recent weeks.
Yeah, no one's watching it.
Nobody's watching yet.
And thank you to the amazing Cadell community, another one that just goes over and above for their community. Councillor Hammond, do you wish to speak?
Yeah. I'll just say in regards to the Mannum one, obviously that we put that in because of the floods or during that time. Yes, they water put that in during the floods. The one at Haythorpe is not going to be replaced, or will it be? Because part of me feels like, oh, floodplain area, should we have a RV dump point in such a spot?
Through the chair, that's the RV dump one at Haythorpe is a bit of a linkage with the toilet that's over there.
Okay.
We put it through various fundings. We haven't been successful in those fundings. We put it through the most recent community recreational and remediation program, the CRAP funding. Unfortunately, it wasn't successful in that area. So because we're looking at doing a toilet and the RV dump one at the time, it's probably looking about $130,000, $140,000. And the toilet was only insured for about $30,000. So unfortunately, we haven't been able to find any funding to actually reinstate that project.
I think I asked last meeting for a report on where we're up to in the flooding, maybe then we can start some advocacy on that.
I'd say, it's just in closing on that, because I've recently invested in a camping toilet when I go camping, and I went to the Mannum, and people have said it's very good up there at the showgrounds, and that it's a much better site than probably what Haythorpe was beforehand anyway, of their mind, people I spoke to there over the Easter long weekend. There was quite a few people obviously queuing up to use it, and they were all saying this is one of the best in the region, and that they were very happy with the service of the level of cleanliness and stuff at the Mannum one. So part of me feels like maybe people at Haythorpe will just be coming over from the showgrounds like they have been now and continue to do so.
I have had community feedback that they're not doing that and they're dumping it in farmland.
Oh, okay.
unfortunately,
Okay, gross.
On that side of the river.
That being said, people are gross. That being said.
Anybody else? Yes, councillor Fletcher.
Yeah, this is just a question, because I'm not sure of the process. Once a new one's put in, are there any implications in terms of maintenance for council?
If we can use, through the chair, if we can use history, the last year one present, I think we've been up there nearly every week with disposing of incorrect product in there. People are now using nappies, they put nappies down it, adult nappies and so forth, so they just create blockages. The one at Mannum, we had, I think, about 6 blockages in about 2 weeks, where someone's cartridge cap fell off and went in, so we've had to put an IP in there. So there is a lot of maintenance that we need to do, reactive maintenance, because obviously there's demand for them. Also, contained in the report is in the cassettes themselves, they use a chemical which actually kills the bacteria. And what we do is we put them in a septic tank and these bacteria. So it actually impacts on the septic tank as well. So we do have to pump out our septic tanks more often because there is a lot more solids or other napkins and wipes and so forth that are inappropriate that do get put in there. So there is a huge maintenance with these RV dump points.
And that will all be taken into consideration if somebody comes to say they will pay for it, the council will consider that when it happens. And that is, I think, part of why it will be in the draft service provision policy. Councillor Miles.
Just wondering, is it worth going down the path of education with signage or?
Good chair, we have actually produced a fact sheet for swings. We can actually then incorporate RV dump points onto that as well. So it's very much aligned.
Yeah, I think that'd be great because the community, especially Blanchetown, you know, they get on there and they're upset about it. So they'll help us educate as well. Any further questions? Yes, councillor Barber.
Through the chair, my question was, there's obviously some community groups that are very passionate about getting an RV dump point in their area. Is council able to assist those community groups with letting them know what funding may be available to help them with getting that sorted?
Do we actually?
Through the chair, they can make, I suppose, contact with council, and we can probably point them in the right direction if we know if there's funding available for those types of things. But they can make contact with us, and if funding does become available, we can follow them to that, as long as we're aware of the funding as well.
Mine's just a question.
No, I was actually with an answer.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
They contact the CMCA. They were the ones that paid for the one at Cadell.
Now, anybody who hasn't spoken wish to speak on this? No? Any further questions? If not, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour? Oh, sorry.
Oh, is it?
Do you want to say something?
Just through the chair in response, our discussion with the CMCA, originally they were going to put it in because obviously they wanted to make them very prevalent around the area. Now all they do is they provide the lid and then the signage, and then we put the signage up and then we maintain it from there on in.
Yeah.
So it was a good bonus point originally, but all the onus comes back to council's order to provide it.
Yeah, we need to be very aware of that.
Okay, now we'll put that motion up. All those in favour and against, that is carried. Thank you. We have 8 more minutes for anyone to speak on the annual business plan, if anyone wants to speak. 10.3 is the Department for Environment and Water Constraints Project Round 2 priorities. The recommendation is that the Department for Environment and Water Constraints Projects Round 2 priorities report on the council agenda 7th of June 2025 be received, and that council endorse the Page Drive Boat Ramp Blanchetown, Morgan Riverfront and Arnold Park Riverfront Mannum as potential projects for the Due Constraints Project Round 2. Do we have a mover? Councillor Hammond and Councillor Barber is seconding that. Councillor Hammond, do you wish to speak?
Just that it's great, and we can do some remediation on the riverbanks. Awesome.
Yeah, Councillor Barber, wish to speak? No. Anybody else wish to speak? No. Also think it's great.
We love it.
We do have them, I think, coming to our briefings, so we can tell them how great that we think. But other councils have received a lot more money, so we're pushing that for the third of the river, and that we'd love to see more money come. And I'm sure that Councillor Myers will be very excited to tell the committee at Blanchetown that their Page Drive boat ramp is in round 2.
I'll tell them when the money flows.
Yeah, oh, you just let them know that we've endorsed that it is up there.
They're probably watching anyway.
Excellent. Any further questions, comments? If not, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour and against, it's carried. 10.4, Mannum Waters Boat Ramp Revocation of Community Land. The recommendation is that the Mannum Waters Boat Ramp Revocation of Community Land Report on the Council Agenda 17th of June 2025 be received. Pursuant to section 194(2) of the Local Government Act 1999, Council endorses the proposal to revoke classification of community land report for formal public consultation in accordance with its public consultation policy and, where appropriate, guided by the Office of Local Government, section 194, revocation of community land classification guidance paper number 5, April 2022, revoke the community land classification of land situated at lot 949 Pelican Drive, Mannum Waters, and 951 Pelican Drive, Mannum Waters. At the conclusion of the public consultation process conducted on the proposal to revoke classification of community land report, a report be submitted to council for its consideration of the outcome of the public consultation under section 194(2)(b) of the Local Government Act 1999 for the revocation of the community land classification of the whole of land comprised at lot 149, Pelican Drive, Mannum Waters.
949.
Thank you, 949 and 951 Pelican Drive, Mannum Waters. Do we have a mover? Councillor Chorchik and Peake, thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Schultz, thank you. Councillor Chorchik and Peake, do you wish to speak?
Yes, through the mayor, my understanding from reading this, that this is in effect a correction
Yes.
to what should be.
Thank you for simplifying. Councillor Schultz?
I think the error must have occurred many, many years ago.
No, it was
No?
recent.
It was
Recent,
recent, or was it just discovered?
It was when we swapped the land for the boat ramp, Sadfac, and yeah.
All right.
But
Good
that,
pickup.
the agreement was always that if that didn't go ahead, we don't want it until it's a boat ramp.
So that was in the
Up to
initial agreement, right?
Yes.
Oh,
Any further questions, comments, or anyone wish to speak on this? If not, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour and against, that is carried. Thank you. 10.5, Borough to Morgan Run Major Event Application. The recommendation is that the Borough to Morgan Run Major Event Application Report on the Council agenda of 17th of June 2025 be received. Approval be granted for persons taking part in the event to drive and park vehicles on the lawned area of the Morgan Riverfront Precinct, Morgan, and that the CEO be authorised to make minor amendments to the event application as required. Have a mover, Councillor Davis, thank you. Councillor Myers, thank you. Would you like to speak on it?
Just that it's a great event and it's been going for a very long time. So yeah, it's great to see it happen again this year.
Thank you, Councillor Myers. No. Anybody else wishing to speak on this?
I just had a question. just in regards to, obviously it's been going for many years, and just wondering what kind of crowd of cars do we normally see at this event? Like what's the level of, if anyone has a rough gauge of how many cars enter the space?
Councillor Davis might be able to.
How many was there last
Yeah,
year?
just,
Probably about 50 cars,
Yeah.
different types of cars from, you know, your Model T Fords to right up to everything in between.
So I think the first one was only T4
Yeah.
All right,
The
okay.
front of the turbos.
way back.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Great thing for little town at very small cost to council. Any further questions, comments, feedback? If not, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour and against, that is carried. Sounds by the river. Sorry, councillor Myers, we're not allowed to use phones.
Just answering the people from Blanchetown or
No,
what?
tell them I have to wait.
Wait.
Sounds by the river, November 2025. I think this one may be where, oh yeah, some people want to speak. Yes, we are going to deal with both of the Sounds by the river, just like we did with the Swan Reach swims. So we'll declare the both conflicts if we have two conflicts. Who wants to go first?
You can go. You get ready.
Are we going out of session for a minute or no?
And through you, Mayor Bailey, so we need to do 12.1 first before we do.
Sure, thank you.
Okay, that's fine. I consider that I have material conflict of interest pursuant to section 75 of the Local Government Act 1999. My material conflict of interest is as follows. I have a ticket to the event. I will leave the, so looking at 10.6 and 12.1. I will leave the meeting room, including any areas set aside for the public, ensuring I cannot view or hear any discussion or vote at the meeting. I will stay out of the meeting room while the matter is being discussed and voted on. Thank you. You can have my office. Thanks very much. That's all.
I consider that I have a material conflict of interest pursuant to section 75 of the Local Government Act 1999. My material conflict of interest is as follows. My partner is the president of the Mannum Football Club. I will leave the meeting room, including any area set aside for the public, ensuring that I cannot view or hear any discussion or vote at the meeting, and I will stay out of the meeting room while the matter is being discussed and voted on.
Thank you. Yes. So we will go to 12.1 first. The recommendation is that the Sounds by the River venue Mannum Golf Club report on the council agenda 17th of June 2025 be received, and that council waives the permitted use of the lease agreement over the Mannum Golf Club council assessments A9854 and A13311 for the period 19 to 25 November 2025 inclusive, and consent to the Mannum Golf Club Incorporated to host the 2025 Sounds by the River concert. We have a mover, councillor Todgett McPeak, councillor Fowler is seconding that. Councillor Todgett McPeak, you wish to speak?
Through the mayor, just to say that this is a fabulous event, and I gather that there's something like 7,000 people expected for it, which is whichever venue it's at, I think it's great for the town.
Thank you, councillor Fowler, you wish to speak?
I'm not sure whether I should speak this on.
This is just on the golf club being allowed to change their lease to use it for a concert.
Yep, no, put on.
Excellent.
Great event.
Anybody else wish to speak on this item? Councillor Shell?
I think the precedent's already been set, hasn't it? As in for when the Sound by the River was held on the golf course
Yes,
during the flood.
we have allowed it in the past, and I think great for community organisation being able to raise money, you know, for a different, using their lease for a different purpose. Councillor Hammond?
I'll just make a comment really. From that time when we did use it during the floods, and COVID, I think is when we
Yes,
first
yeah.
did it, actually. There was a lot of feedback that the golf course was such a great venue for it, that so many people said, oh, why are we going back to the river? Let's have it up there at the golf course where it has a larger capacity, more people can come to the town. It's right next to the football oval and the showgrounds where they all stay. So it does create a beautiful precinct up there. It's a great amphitheatre space, and I think it's a great thing for the club.
It's just a shame about the nickname.
Yeah, but I mean,
Okay, any further comments or questions with regards to that item? If not, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour and against, that is carried. Now we will go back to 10.6, Sounds by the River, November 2025. The recommendation is that the Sounds by the River report on the council agenda 17 June 2025 be received. Council endorse face-to-face touring proprietary limited, holding the November 2025 Sounds by the River concert at the Mannum Golf Course on Saturday, 22nd of November 2025, subject to general conditions of the council's event permit. Council ratify road closures, Hardy Street from North Terrace to Douglas Street from Hardy Street to Hamilton Street, Boronia Road from Douglas Street to Belvedere Road, Hamilton Street from Douglas Street in a southerly direction to the end of Hamilton Street, No Through Road in Mannum, Mannum Football Club Oval Car Park as general use car park and shuttle bus access from the event from 6 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. on Saturday, the 22nd of November. SA Police be advised that council agrees with the proposed road closures as detailed below and be requested to proceed with necessary road closure order, and that the Australian road rules exemptions and conditions be sought for the streets that I mentioned before. Approval be granted for temporary parking controls to apply on Boronia Street from Douglas Street to Belvedere Road and Mannum Football Oval Car Park for parking and shuttle bus patrol drop-off pickup from 6 a.m. till 10:30 p.m. on Saturday, the 22nd of November, and subject to council providing approval of the traffic guidance scheme for the proposed road closures and affiliated road restrictions, the issue of the road closure order referred to in 4 above, and temporary parking controls in 5 above. The applicant or its agent and contractors be authorised to install and remove or pause the installation and removal of necessary and appropriate traffic control devices for the conduct of this event, and council consent to permit being granted by the Liquor and Gambling Commission for the alcohol to be sold and consumed in conjunction with the event, liquor sales to cease at 10:30 p.m. Council charge the road closure fee of $570 and bin hire fees of $600, and the CO be authorised to make minor amendments to the road closures and event logistics as required. Do we have a mover? Councillor Barber and Councillor Myers seconding that. Councillor Barber, you wish to speak?
Yeah, look, obviously it's a great event for our town. I just think it was, from my point of view, a little bit disappointing that the promoter didn't get the application in before they started promoting the event for us to actually have this come up in the last meeting. But yeah, it is a great event for the town, so.
Thank you. Councillor Myers. Anybody else wish to speak? Councillor Hammond.
I would like to also second the fact that I feel like we're doing this in after the fact and tickets have already been sold. So, I mean, we're not going to say no to it now, obviously. And I would like the promoter to realise that it is important to make sure they get their permits and things in place and in order in community areas prior to them promoting and advertising an event, no matter how great the act is. I love Crowded House. It's going to be an amazing performance, and it is actually going to bring a different variety of tourists that the previous Sounds by the Rivers have attracted. I think it is going to create a whole new demographic of people coming out here for this event. So obviously we're promoting and supporting it, but just in future, I'd like them to be aware that, you know, they have to get their ducks in order before they then promote.
Thank you.
Ducks in order? That the word?
Anybody else wish to
Ducks in a row.
speak? Yes.
I don't get ducks in a row, but I.
Ducks in a row. We don't give them a fee or anything, do we?
Okay, anybody else wish to speak? Have any questions? If not, Ben, do you want to comment on that, any of that? No? If not, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour and against, that is carried. Thank you.
They can come back.
They can come back. Okay. Thank you. Stepping out. I'll just let you know that both of those items passed as they were, and enjoy the concert. 11.1 Community Engagement Charter Consultation. The recommendation is that the Community Engagement Charter Consultation report on the Council agenda
17th of June 2025 be received. We have a mover, councillor Hammond, a seconder. Councillor Schultz, thank you. Councillor Hammond, you wish to speak?
I would say firstly that it's great to see that we're abiding by a new sort of form of engagement with community that's going to increase how we engage and how we consult. And I think this gives.
Sorry, can I just butt in? This is just us feedbacking, so it's not actually in yet. So
All right.
we will be feedbacking to whether we agree with it, and then we'll make policies. So I think council did have a motion on the table that we weren't going to play with our consultation policy until this has come in.
Mhm.
So this is just the government now asking for feedback.
Yep.
And then once that feedback's been received, they'll put the policy out and then we can look at ours. So I just wanted to.
Okay, great, thank you, Beth. Have we created, from the administration's point of view, any physical liberty? No.
Just a draft.
Yeah.
So once this, every council, any community member can now feed back to the government.
Mhm.
Once they've looked at the feedback, they might alter this. So there is something in there like, we asked, the state government don't have to advertise in papers anymore. And as many of you know, a lot of people don't read papers. Our council in particular has to advertise in 3 different newspapers if it's a whole area consultation, and it's very costly. They haven't listened, that is still in there. So
Okay.
this is for the community and council to feedback. I think there's a little line in there that says, we're in the process of preparing our submission, and the councillors need to let them know
Yeah.
what we want to, but we can also feedback as community members.
Okay.
as councillors. So if you are strong on something, get on there and make sure you have your say.
Alright,
Now,
great, okay, well, yeah, so we've got the ball rolling, and we will see our feedback probably in the next month then, or
Yeah,
how many months
it'll
will
be
be
a
before we see a report back, do you think? How long's a piece of string?
Through the mayor, the consultation concludes on the 29th of June. So the government will obviously have to consider all the submissions received. They'll prepare a submission summary, and no doubt we'll then see a final version of the charter released and endorsed at some point later this year.
So we're going to be giving our response to you before the end of this month, and you'll be
Correct. So,
creating
yeah,
your
so
report.
I'm in the report of asking that elected members
Mhm.
provide feedback back to
Uh-huh.
Ben or myself by Friday.
Okay,
So that we can prepare our submission to the LGA as part of an LGA joint submission. But as the report says, you're more than welcome to jump on the Your Say website to provide your own individual comments on the charter.
and I highly recommend you do that,
Mhm.
because like I said, when this first came out, we all provided feedback to LGA.
Mm.
LGA provided feedback to the government, and this is what they've come back with, which didn't even look at people like us in regions where people aren't reading papers, and it's something that the government have allowed themselves not to do, but have somehow not allowed councils not to do it. So,
Through the mayor, I'd just like to add to, it's important, I think, when you look at this charter, that you also look at the charter under the PDI Act. Because the PDI Act, I think, is a superior charter.
okay,
In the respect that it incorporates the IAP2 framework more so than this charter does. So I would suggest you do look at the 2 charters side by side
Yeah.
to determine what you feel is the appropriate level of engagement that council should be doing. Now, the charter will set sort of like the minimum standard for councils as to what they're required to do. Once the charter is in place, the other piece of the review legislations, then that council will have to have a community engagement policy. So that policy then will determine what council will do as its standard of consultation. So as you know, last year we did modify our public consultation policy to bring in some of the IAP2 framework. So I feel that this charter misses the point in that spectrum.
and we'll be including that in our feedback, will we, Gary?
We will
No,
indeed.
I think great points there, and just remember that whatever the government comes up with, that will be bare minimum, and I really hope that our
Okay,
council
cool.
look at, because regional communities are different, but we still do need feedback from our communities as to how they want to engage, and we're still lacking that, and I'm still having conversations every time I meet with a community member when they say, well, you didn't tell us. Well, can you tell us how that we can tell you, because we are lacking that part. So hopefully with this and then our policy on top, then we can sort of start getting all of those areas. So councillor Hammond, councillor Schultz, do you wish to speak? No? Anybody else wish to speak or have a question?
No, would you like to close it up?
No, thank you for those informed responses, and yes, I'll be looking at the PDI version as well, just to compare, and thank you for that. We'll give our feedback by Friday.
Excellent. And just remember, you got an extra week to do your own personal feedback. The more, the better, I think. Generally, just like our feedback, the government don't get too much. So, you know, if we all get in there and do lots from the regions, they might happen. Thank you, everyone. If there's no further comments or questions, we'll put that motion up for a vote. All those in favour and against, that is carried. Thank you. And thanks in advance, Ben and Gary, for whatever you're going to do for our submission. 11.2, public transport strategy and regional review consultation. The recommendation is the public transport strategy and regional review consultation report on the council agenda of 17 June 2025 be received. Do we have a mover? Councillor Hammond, Councillor Barber, Councillor Hammond, you wish to speak on that?
Yes, I went online and did the have your say independently, but obviously we'll be putting forward something as a council of things we think are beneficial. I said it before and I'll say it again: fast train, Taylor Bend, Mount Barker, Murray Bridge, Monarto, Adelaide, fast train like the rest of the country sees in V-line systems, and New South Wales has a pretty great regional train network, and I think South Australia has probably the worst regional train system for this region that is expanding and is growing ahead with massive developments in Mount Barker and all those people congested on the freeway. We need to get the cars off the road for our environment, and I do believe more people would access public transport if it was available here.
Thank you very much. Councillor Barber, do you wish to speak?
Through the chair, I just feel that our region does need a better transport system. There's people that can't get themselves around, even if they, we're trying to keep cars off the road, but some people don't even have access to a car to get anywhere. So I think it's very important for our region to have a better system in place.
Thank you. So again, elected members are invited to provide feedback on the strategy and review to council administration by Friday, the 20th of June to inform council's submission. But you can always get on and have your say, like Councillor Hammond has, and please share it with your community to ensure they have their say. There are a couple of sessions. There's one up in the Riverland and there's one in Murray Bridge, I think on Thursday. If you can get to that and get community members to that, because what we've seen in the regional plan is that we all mentioned transport for half the day and then they left it out. So I think we need to just keep reminding the government how important transport is in regional communities.
Closing out, can I do that?
Just see if anyone else wants to speak first. Yes,
I do. I did share this with Mid-Murray CFS Ridley Group.
Sorry.
Roz never likes to
Sorry, I
use
never
it.
use it.
She's like,
I've got a big enough voice already. Yeah, I did share this last night with the Ridley CFS and the secretary's going to put it in there 1 minute. He's going to get his minutes out ASAP. And as far as public transport goes in regional areas, well, does the government consider the ageing population and that, you know, older people just probably may not feel comfortable to drive, especially long distances? And I, for one, I'm going to fill out the survey.
yeah, that's really good. And mentioning that we have freight routes and stuff. So as you get older, you don't want to drive on those.
I don't.
Scary
Yeah,
roads
I'm
with
not
trucks.
actually ancient now, but I
Yeah.
don't like driving on Ridley Road anymore.
Yeah. Anybody else wish to speak that hasn't spoken yet? No, you can close out. Thank you.
Yeah, just one other final point I wanted to raise was about medical transport and how we have such a lacking of medical transport here in the region, and that the public transport requirements for people to get to treatment and doctor's appointments in the city, and for aging population, like you mentioned, Roz, it is so vital that we have a better connected transport system out here when we have such a lack of transport options for people when they're in medical need and aging.
Thank you. Okay, no more questions or comments or feedback. We'll put that motion up. All those in favour and against, so it's carried. Thank you. 11.3, review of council bylaws. The recommendation is that the review of council bylaws report on the council agenda 17 June 2025 be received. The following draft bylaws: bylaw number 1, permits and penalties; bylaw number 2, movable signs; bylaw number 3, local government land; bylaw number 4, roads, bylaw number 5, dogs, bylaw number 6, cats, bylaw number 7, camping and mooring, be endorsed for public consultation in accordance with the Local Government Act 1999, Council's public consultation policy and communication plan. We have a mover for that, Councillor Barber, thank you, and a seconder, Councillor Warhurst, thank you. Councillor Barber, do you wish to speak?
Yeah, as I do with all the community groups that I attend, I just encourage everybody to get involved with the public consultation, because there's a lot of items here that are going to affect a lot of people in our region, and they need to let us know what their thoughts are.
Councillor Warhurst?
No, for me, just
Anybody else wish to speak or have questions? I have smarts in the room if we have any questions on bylaws. No? Yeah, Joe free card. Must be great. You must have picked everything up, and we'll wait for the community to have their say. If there's no further questions or feedback, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour? And against, that is carried. Thank you. Thanks, Mark, for the work on that. 11.4, review of enforcement policy and reviewing and withdrawing an expiation notice procedure. Recommendation is that the review of the enforcement policy and reviewing and withdrawing an expiation notice procedure report on the council agenda of 7th of June be received. Welcome. And the council adopt the enforcement policy version 2 and the reviewing and withdrawing an expiation notice procedure version 2. Remover for that. Councillor Myers, thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Schultz, thank you. Councillor Myers, do you wish to speak?
Only the fact that, to remind council, we do need a strong group of inspectors to enforce our policy.
Excellent, thank you. Councillor Schultz.
I just have a correction.
Yes.
On page 9, the second to last paragraph, the last line, as a debt to council, and council's got 2 L's in it.
Oh, I love you.
And you didn't find another place we could put that L? I'm sure the team will work that out. Any further questions, discussion, or anyone wish to speak on this motion? Councillor Hammond.
I'll just reiterate what Councillor Myers said is, yeah, for all of these, we do need to have enforcement officers to be able to enforce.
Thank you. Any further questions, comments, discussion? If not, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour and against, that is carried. Thanks, Gemma.
Like you're gonna have a coffee.
11.5, review of light management plan, River Murray International Dark Sky Reserve and Dark Sky Policy. The recommendation. This is why I don't read books. The review of the light management plan, River Murray International Dark Sky Reserve and Dark Sky Policy Report on the council agenda of 17th June 2025 be received. The revised light management plan, River Murray International Dark Sky Reserve version 2 and the revised Dark Sky Policy version 2 be endorsed for public consultation in accordance with council's public consultation policy and the communication plan. In relation to requirements of public consultation for the light management plan, River Murray International Dark Sky Reserve version 2 and revised Dark Sky Policy version 2, should any submissions be received upon completion of the public consultation period, a subsequent report will be presented to council for its consideration, or should no submissions be received upon completion of the public consultation period, the proposed light management plan, River Murray International Dark Sky Reserve version 2 and revised Dark Sky Policy version 2 be adopted, and the CEO be authorised to make amendment of a minor and or technical nature as part of the finalisation of the light management plan, River Murray International Dark Sky Reserve version 2 and revised Dark Sky Policy version 2. Have we got a mover? Councillor Toczek-McPeak and Councillor Barber. Councillor Toczek-McPeak, do you wish to speak? Councillor Barber, do you wish to speak? Oh, come on, give me a break. Anybody else wish to speak or have questions, comments or feedback?
I have a
Councillor
question.
Hammond, thank you.
In regards to people using sort of, it says here somewhere, I remember the page, if they're using a light or a searchlight that it's being reserved only for emergency crews using searchlights within the dark skies reserve area. And I was just wondering, how does that relate to, say, farmers on their properties that might be wanting to, you know, do some culling of maybe kangaroos on their property
It's
or
called spotlight.
spotlighting and that process that, I mean, how do we control that? How do we enforce it? But also yeah, just wondering about it for those people that are in that area that are going to be doing those activities.
Through the mayor, I'll have to take that one on notice. I'll have to just double check where that is in.
It's something in the, it's in the,
The policy or the plan?
it's in the policy.
Thank you.
And it's, sorry,
I mean, just through the mayor, as this is a draft,
Yeah.
if council feel that that's, you know, a too onerous requirement, that can be removed.
Yeah, it's
From
like a
policy at the launch stage.
with the exception to farmers, I think,
Yes, something
because
on those lines,
of
yes.
primary producers, because I think they're the only ones that would be most likely doing it,
Yeah.
but to do hunting on their property for foxes, whatever, that happens at night. They are going to be using spotlights, whether we have it in our policy or not.
We take on notice as amendment before it goes out for consultation.
And I have one other question, sorry, just one. In regards to, say, private properties, that are in that area, that are closer to the river, I know that a lot of people use quite bright, like floodlights and stuff to light up their grassed area leading down to the rivers and things like that. I've noticed a lot more of them popping up, especially in my area, where you're like, whoa, it looks like the footy lights, but it's just someone's lighting of their turf. Are we going to have policy that's going to then slowly be rolled out to private resident? I mean, we're obviously changing all of our lights and going with a leader of new lights. Are we going to be also trying to enforce that amongst private dwellings?
So through the mayor, this policy and management plan is encouraging people to do the right thing as regards to dark sky reserve, because lighting itself is not something we can control. So it is about, you know, education and awareness about appropriate lighting standards. As the work we're doing around code amendment for the planning design code and the like, we're hoping that we can make lighting a form of development, which will then give us better control over potential lighting standards. So until we can actually get regulation and the code amendment, it's all about advocating for good practice.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of work to be done in that space and a lot of education. So, Councillor Barham.
Yeah, just a comment regarding the exemption to primary producers is different times of the year. Primary producers are out there with their implements and vehicles that up like Christmas trees so they can see what they're doing to all hours of the night if they're seeding and whatnot. So yeah, you see them from miles away, but
Yeah.
they need it.
They need it.
That's what they're doing.
So there should be an exception for that.
So can we share this with primary producers and get them
Mm.
down and let's start knowing how that might affect them? Councillor Schultz.
My understanding of this is that it should only be for lights that are always going to be there, not, you know, seasonal lights or, you know.
Working
stuff
lights.
Yeah, it's
And it is
a bit of
difficult.
common sense.
Any further questions, comments, discussion, anyone wish to speak? If not, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour? Again, and that is carried. 11.6, formation of governance body, dark sky reserve. The recommendation is that the formation of governance body dark sky reserve report on the council agenda of 17th of June 2025 be received, and the council authorise the CEO or their nominee to progress the establishment of a non-government organisation skills-based board for the future ongoing management of the River Murray International Dark Sky Reserve. Councillor Schultz is moving that and Councillor Township is seconding that. Councillor Schultz, do you wish to speak on that? No. Councillor Township.
Just to say that I think this is a huge step forward and hopefully a leap forward in terms of once the organisation is established, in terms of opportunities for grants, organisational support. I think it's the right direction for it to go.
Councillor Hammond.
Yes, I agree. Dark Skies being a non-for-profit is just definitely step in the perfect direction of how we can support them still, and they can go forward and apply for more grants and opportunities. Just one point I'd like to make in regards to the skill-based board, just to make sure, something that I think has been a bit of an overstep at this point in the group that we've been going to with our reference group. For their terms of reference to have a First Nations person on the Dark Skies Committee when they create on their board, I think is an important, very important position. So they are tying in with First Nations ecotourism as well as the those guys that know about the skies. Astronomers. I was thinking astronomical, and I was like,
Was that
no,
the skills matrix? Yeah.
it is, but it's kind of just, yeah, just wanted to make sure that was.
No, good point. We don't want those stories.
Yeah.
leaking either, yeah, to have them remain. Anybody else have questions, comment, or wish to speak? If not, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour? Against, that is carried. Yay.
Yay.
11.7, a review of Dark Sky Committee terms of reference. The
that's what we
recommendation is that the review of the Dark Sky Committee terms of reference report on the council agenda 17th of June 2025 be received, and the council adopts the revised Dark Sky Committee terms of reference version 2. Do we have a mover? Councillor Schultz, thank you. Councillor Warhurst is seconding, thank you. Councillor Schultz is
I think this was mentioned at the last Dark Sky meeting, that this terms of reference is necessary for the interim period between the section 44 ending and the NGO getting up and running.
Yes, I did have someone bring me that big confused that they thought that was for the new
No.
NGO. It's not, it's just to keep this committee running. Councillor Waters, did you second?
Yes, I didn't, but nothing to
else to
say.
speak. Anybody else wish to speak on this item? If not, we will put that motion up. All those in favour and against, that is carried. 11.8 we have done.
12.1 we've done.
1 we've done.
Yeah, but look at us getting ahead.
12.2, it's missing from my bookmark, so just let me find it.
Yeah, it was just.
Here's this one. It's page 661.
Oh, that's great.
The recommendation is that the proposed lease, Swan Reach Community Garden Report on the council agenda 17th of June 2025 be received. That consent be granted for public consultation to commence on the proposed 5-year plus 5-year lease agreement to Mid-Murray Outtown Incorporated for the use of the land located at CT 5956/604 portion, lot PT 51 of 51 Phillip Avenue, Swan Reach, and council consent be granted to Mid-Murray Outtown Incorporated's request to waive the minimum annual fee applicable as per clause 5.2 of council's leases and licensing policy in relation to the requirement of public consultation under section 202 of the Local Government Act. Should any negative submissions be received upon completion of the public consultation period, a report be presented to the next available council meeting for consideration. Should any positive, neutral or no submissions be received upon completion of the consultation period, a lease for a term of 5-year plus 5-year for the use of that land be issued to Mid-Murray Outtown Incorporated, and the CEO be authorised to make minor amendments to the lease agreement, and the Mayor and the CEO be authorised to affix the common seal to the proposed lease agreement. We have a mover, Councillor Hammond, thank you. A seconder, Councillor Warhurst, thank you. Councillor Hammond, do you wish to speak?
No, I love community garden.
Thank you. Councillor Warhurst.
No, I think it's great also.
Excellent. Councillor Township.
Yeah, I just have a concern that we're going through a review of the whole leasing process at the moment, and we did talk at one point recently about deferring long leases until we go through that process. So I'm not sure why this has come to council actually. And also the waiving of lease fees. In the spirit of full cost attribution, I don't understand why we would do that. Yeah, so because we'd be covering the cost of advertising, and then we lose a $300 a year fee. And I'm just confused about why this has come to us, and I would like to see it deferred Thank you, Ben.
Yes, through you, Mayor Bailey. We can't sell this land. It's Crown land under our care and control. So there's no divestment options. It's a piece of land that is not doing anything. We felt, as we considered that question, Councillor Tochick McPeak, that this is going to be benefit and be an improvement to the parcel of land. And so we thought it was still prudent that council consider offering this lease. And sorry, for you, Mayor Bailey, the comment on the waiving of the fee, yeah, that's up to councils to consider. They are a not-for-profit. They are going to improve the space and invest into it to make it more beautiful and appealing to the community. So that's why the recommendation is to waive, but it would be council's consideration whether they accept that or not.
Anybody else have any questions? Councillor Barber?
Yeah, mine was more of a comment, I suppose. I'm certainly in favour of the community garden going ahead. But as we have discussed in previous meetings, like we had so many different applications that are asking for fees being waived, and I think that well, in my opinion, we should be at least covering our administration costs for any of these applications. So it may not be the full fee, but I think we should be covering our costs for that. And I did have one question. Is there a permanent water source available on that section of land, or do they have to work out some sort of water supply?
Anybody know which is a permanent water source there?
I would have to take that under on notice. I'm not sure, Councillor Barber.
Does anybody else wish to speak that hasn't spoken yet? Do we feel like we want to go out for 5 minutes and have a chat about the $300 fee, or is everyone okay to just go ahead? So hands up if you would like to go out for 5 minutes. Yeah, that's 2/3. All right, we'll go out for 5 minutes. So starting at 11:07. Let's have a chat. Councillor Hammond.
I was going to say, like, well, in the closing of what I was going to say, I guess we could do it in this, was that, you know, when we do small events for community groups, we waive the fees for the bins, the roads, the things for if it's just a small community event for the day that brings some people together. My feeling around $300 or whatever it is for the administration cost is less than what we get for an event request often, or that we waiver for community groups. And part of me feels like, because it's a community garden, that's going to engage with the community in a very meaningful way of food security that I think is very important in our regional areas like Swan Reach. And we've already seen in other reports today how poor they are and how they're struggling to pay things, and they haven't been able to update, you know, things, and they're, you know, worried about money. Cost of living is a real problem out there. And I would hope this community garden that's being created is obviously going to be incorporating food sources for the community. So then it gives benefit to the community for, you know, for a time. I wouldn't consider 5 years by 5 years to be a long lease. I would consider, compared to the leases we've got going of peppercorn amounts for other things, 5 on 5 is actually kind of a sort of a small lease, like, as opposed to, I don't know, like a long lease of 25 years plus 25 years or 30 years plus 30 years, like we've done for other organisations, which I do think need to be addressed. So that was just my thoughts on the reason why I thought we'd waive $300, because it's giving a benefit to the whole Swan Reach community there of a community garden that's going to hopefully have fruit trees. They're going to give benefit to them in cost of living crises, and community resilience and food security is something we should be really encouraging going forward with climate change.
Anybody else wish to yes? Lara?
Yeah, just in response to that, if there is a fee charge, it's not the community paying the fee, it's the organisation that's taking on the lease that's paying the fee. So it's not the actual community. And also, a question, I guess, for Dave is, if we enter into this lease, is there a pretty tight maintenance agreement over what they're proposing to do with that land? Or, you know, there's been instances before where there's been a similar thing happen, and then people lose interest, and then it's left to council to clean up.
Okay.
I think the lease is clear that they have to take away what they, or like leave it as it was.
Through the chair, the lease should be fairly
relatively tight to sort of say how things are operated, but generally community groups do request things of council. And obviously we are looking at reviewing our project work policy, which will come to council very shortly, which should include groups like this.
Any further on the admin fee? Yes, this is where we want to talk about it before we go back into the meeting. Councillor Dodge.
Just bearing in mind that this is an annual thing. So, 5 by 5, that's $3,000, not 300. And yes, it is an organisation, not the community.
Anybody else? Questions?
I guess, yeah, like it's a not-for-profit group. And I know how much it costs to set up a community garden as a landscape designer, like wicking beds, fruit trees cost about $100 a tree. Wicking beds can cost upward of like $2,000 to create a wicking bed. I think there's a lot of expense in putting in a community garden, like you said about the water. There might not be access to permanent water. They might have to put in rainwater tanks and other things, and it adds in a quite a large cost for the community group to create this for the community. They're doing it for a need for their community. It is, even though it's a non-for-profit community group, they're doing it for that town and for the community of that town. Otherwise, if there wasn't a need, I don't think they would be approaching us for the land in some way. Like it might have been some feedback from Swan Ridge community or something that they felt they needed. That part I don't know. But yeah, I just thought, considering it costs so much money to create a community garden these days, like it's a lot of outlay expense that they're putting as in kind support to get this going for our community. It's something that communities want across the board that we can't afford to provide them. And so that's why I thought the 300 for 5 years would seem fair of our commitment to show that we're supportive of that. But I'm open to you guys having feelings.
Anyone else have anything? I guess we've got to think it's Bruce that
No. I just want to say that it's not like it's a building that we're looking at here. So we're not maintaining a building like we do with a lot of the other pepperpot leases. So I think it's a bit different, and I think it's a great thing for the community.
Through you, Mayor Bailey, I have an answer on the water. So it's the responsibility, it's pointed out in the report that they have to connect to the water at their cost, and it's in the lease.
Yeah. Thanks, Ben.
Councillor Schultz.
I did read the lease, but I've probably missed something. Is there anything in the lease that ensures that this group don't plant any sort of plant that could become noxious or a nuisance over time? Like, they might buy a fruit tree that's labelled as something, and then, it's not actually true to type, and then, yeah.
Peppercorn tree.
Or olives,
no.
no olives, please.
There
No
is nothing
olives.
in the lease, but I would assume that group will be working with other groups. Yeah.
Around it.
And just to add to councillor Davis's point, this was one lease that I was actually relieved to read that there wasn't much on council. There were just 3 little points that's changed from the last time we were presented a lease where there was a lot of risk on council. So I actually felt quite comfortable that the lease was great. But we're going back into meeting now because that 5 minutes is up. So we have a mover and seconder. We've had a few people speak. Does anybody wish to speak that hasn't spoken? If not, the mover can close out if you wish.
Nothing further to say.
Thank you. Very short, sharp and sweet. We will put that motion up. All those in favour? And against, that is carried. Thank you. 12.3, reimbursement of travel expenses.
Through the mayor, I need to declare an interest. I forgot at the beginning.
Oh.
I'll leave the room.
Yes, do you want to note what your interest is?
I'm actually one of the volunteer crew members, so there's a possibility I could be reimbursed.
Thank you very much. You may have my office.
Please do that. And a banana.
This is one. Yes. So you do a slight amendment to the motion. So the recommendation is that the reimbursement of travel expenses volunteer crew members report for the council agenda 17th of June 2025 be received. Council endorses volunteers, so we're getting rid of all, who travel to crew on a heritage vessel with paying guests may claim instead of receive the following reimbursement towards their out-of-pocket travel expenses between 50 and 99 kilometres, $20, between 100 and 199 kilometres, $30, between 200 and 299, $40, and 300 kilometres or greater, $50, with a policy / guidelines to be developed to manage the process. Council endorses that these changes will commence in the 2025-26 financial year and will be reviewed annually. And a further report will be presented to council to consider adjusting the fees and charges schedule to offset the allocation of travel reimbursements for volunteers who cruise on heritage vessels with paying guests. Do we have a mover? Councillor Barber, thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Davis. Councillor Barber, do you wish to start?
Yeah, through the chair, I think it's a good idea, especially if it's affecting the commercial viability of the vessels. We wouldn't want to see the vessels not being used simply because the volunteers can't afford to get there. So I think it's a good idea.
Councillor Davis.
Pretty much, Jeff's pretty much said where I was going to say.
Wonderful, thank you. Councillor Hannah.
I have some concerns just in regards to the 300 kilometres or greater. Now, I'm presuming, when I looked up the distances, obviously a lot of this is for people that are commuting from Mannum to Morgan and vice versa to work on the boats within our region. I feel like it's important that it's for volunteers within our region, because we obviously do have volunteers that are coming from Adelaide or other places, that are doing so of their choice, I guess, to come out and work on the boats. I have a concern with volunteers travelling 300 kilometres to then do a volunteer shift, and that is outside of probably the laws around volunteers and how far they should travel.
Probably a round trip, so 150 and 150.
Okay, all right. Well, that makes a bit more sense. I'm thinking, God, if you're traveling 3 hours to get to a volunteer shift, I would have a real problem with that because they're doing an 8-hour shift and then they've done a 3-hour drive to get there. That was just from my reading of it that I was like, we shouldn't have any volunteers that are traveling more than 300 kilometres to get to a site, I thought. That was my concern of safety.
I was just going to say, usually in that instance, those volunteers will stay overnight on the boats. So it's not normally a whole day travelling thing. Normally those volunteers stay the night before or the night after kind of thing, and then travel home. So
Okay.
there's always a safety.
Yeah, they're not like they're
issue
doing a
with that.
3-hour trip and then
No.
my other question I
Mayor
had.
Bailey, sorry, to answer that question, that's up to the volunteers though, Councillor Hammond, that's their decision. And we have volunteers that come, correct me if I'm wrong, Councillor Davis from Mildura, because of their interest in being involved. And so, they'll obviously make arrangements to do what they need to do from a health and safety perspective, but it is the choice of those volunteers. And we obviously want volunteers to come and help out with the boats. So we greatly appreciate those people that do choose to travel.
Some of them don't always accept that reimbursement either. They're quite happy to just take that on board, but it's good to know that it is possibly going to be there.
Questions?
Oh, so yeah, my question was really aimed not at saying we don't want to get community to come involved with the boats, but more that I wanted to make sure that we're doing safe things with how we engage our volunteers, the amount of hours they work within a week and all of those kind of situations, just for the laws around volunteers. And that's why I raised that concern, because in the report it didn't really explain who would be getting it and for how far they travel.
Any further questions or comments, Councillor Davis?
I guess I'd probably just like to see the policy or guidelines before making this decision. I don't feel like I don't feel like I have quite enough information. I just think I'd like to see the guidelines or policy before we really make this decision.
Any further questions or?
Through Mayor Bailey, can I just ask you what additional information, Councillor Wellhurst, you'd be looking? The intent of the policy guidelines is to outline how the reimbursement would be facilitated, whether the form needs to be completed, etc. So if you could, give guidance on what additional information you would require.
You're thinking that's more of an operational job, not necessarily for us?
The intent of that statement around policy guidelines would be how, it's facilitated, who's eligible, the requirements around that and the process. So there's some guidance to that. Not saying that it's not, you shouldn't have that information. It's just trying to understand what additional information you would be looking for.
Good question. I think I just would like to see how we're going to manage it, I guess. And because policy will have to be externally facing, so I guess I'd like to see it before we just say we're going to move it without even seeing it. So that's my only thing.
Sure, thank you.
Is that a question?
Oh, I was just going to say some of the things I'd like to see in the report, if we were to have a more detailed report, would be just that I'd like to see sort of the number of volunteers that are travelling and how far, you know, what their service levels are, that we're engaging with, what, you know, like obviously for our captains and for our like skilled volunteers, we want to make it definitely accessible for those crucial workers, but maybe not if you've just got an RSA and you're working in the bar and that's a choice you make to want to volunteer in an area. Like, I feel like there should be maybe some guidelines around how and who receives it, and obviously we're capping it at a certain amount that's going to come out of the fees and charges for the people using it. So I feel like it's a good, I'm not saying it's not a great thing. I guess like George is saying, I just wanted to see maybe a little bit more clarity on some of the provisos within the policy, just to make sure it's not like, oh, you get $50, you get $50, and then it feels like we're paying volunteers, which we're not doing. We're just reimbursing some travel expenses for those that come a long way based on the skill set they provide that we can't run the boats without. We've been stopping boats working because of obviously skill sets that have been short for those commercial travels. And I just want to get a bit more of engagement of how many of them are traveling such distances and what the skills are of those people that will be traveling. That was something that I thought wasn't in this report really, other than us just saying, yeah, we're going to give the money. That's all I.
I just wanted to comment on point 4. I thought that I'd read somewhere that the suggestion was that the fees and charges would be adjusted to cover this cost. And I might be mistaken, but certainly I'd like to see that that happens, because again, it's allocating full costs to where it, you know, where it's going to be assigned. So I'd like to see point 4 maybe amended to consider at the same time as looking at the rest of it. If we're going to vote today, if we do vote today, that point 4 may be amended to say we think that the fees should be charged. But yeah, we will be the travelling customers.
I agree. I agree with Councillor Dr. McLeod. That's all right. So to my mind, as far as the reimbursement for travel, the 3 words that make the difference to me is manage the process, where this is giving is our consent to reimburse these people, but that manage the process, that's the staff to do.
I guess the only thing I'd like to add is, like, my concern is that ratepayers end up paying for this. We have a lot of community sentiment about how much that area costs, and if they see something like this without a policy or without the fees going up to cover it, that is a concern.
Yeah.
Through Mayor Bailey, point 4 is so that you can adjust the fees and charges. So we don't have what that looks like. So that's why a further report has to come back to council to modify the fees and charges. That's the intent of point 4. So the intent is absolutely to increase the fees and charges for those cruises to cover the $12,000 that is suggested. So there'll be $12,000 income increase from the fees and charges for the cruising to offset this. So it would be a net result and no cost to the ratepayers.
Then would there be any issue with all this being done at once? Does this need to be done now?
Through you, Mayor Bailey, the intent was that so we could start implementing this from the new financial year. So a further report would come back on that. So no, if there's further information required, then we can defer this and we can bring all that back.
How do you move that? Councillor Martha, what are your thoughts as the movement?
Well, firstly, I just want to respond to something that Councillor Hammond said, and I'm sure there was no nothing meant by it. It was just the way it came out, but I don't think there should be any separation as to the skills of any of the volunteers, like with the captain or working on the bar or serving food. They're all volunteers. They're all valued people that are making the cruises happen. So I just wanted to clarify that, and I'm sure you didn't mean it that way.
I didn't mean like that, but I just want to see like the level of who is asking and how many that we're going to be using it for. $12,000 can go pretty quickly if it's for 60 staff. As soon as we start opening it up to it being for every volunteer or however many they are on a boat, as opposed to like it's 10. I mean, people who know more about the boats will know how many volunteers are on there, you know, of how many are traveling. So I feel like that's something I wanted to know of, like $12,000 for cap out in a couple of months after the financial year, depending on how many cruises they do commercially, and they're upping those. So that's why I kind of felt like I wanted to know, because we cap out, then they say we need more because we've got to our peak at August, and you know, so I kind of just wanted to get an understanding of the skill sets and how many are requiring this reimbursement. And like Councillor Davis said, that like a lot of the people who do the long travels won't accept the reimbursement anyway because they're beautiful people that love helping the boats, and I totally understand that. So it's just for those that are in need, and cost of living and all of that. I get it.
And getting back to your question, Mayor Bailey, is if the view of the room is that they would like this deferred, I'll be against that.
All right, let's have a 5-minute suspension so we can have a good chat. Yes, heads nodding if you would like to have a suspension for 5 minutes, have a good discussion, that's everyone. Okay, so 26, let's have a discussion. Who feels like they have enough information or do they don't? Councillor Township.
Just quickly, just to throw in that, I think if we can fix it today, then that would be very helpful for the administration of this process. But obviously that depends on how people feel about the policy and guidelines.
My concern is we're not fixing the fees and charges today, so we're going to start paying out from the 1st of July, but we can't change the fees and charges until mid-July when the next motion comes. In charges.
Is there a reason why we feel like it needs to start the financial year and that can't happen once we've got the reports? I know we want to do everything always at the start of a financial year, clickety-boo, but I mean, we've never offered this reimbursement before. It's a new thing that we're considering. So if it came in at like after we've seen the policy and you know how much we are charging increases as a confirmed amount, then we could be all like, yep, sounds great. And it's not too much to the person who's going on it or whatever to know they're paying an extra $3 or whatever it is per trip. But yeah, I just wanted to maybe have a bit more further information and what's that? How does that affect?
Can you answer that, Ben?
Can you just clarify exactly what the question was?
Oh, my question was, sorry, yeah, that I know we wanted to always get things started at the start of a financial year, but just because we aren't seeing the policy and the fees and charges confirmed amount now, like there wouldn't be too much problem if we delayed until we saw that report and it came back in July and they started at the end of July doing this, you know, like I just feel like it's a month difference of something we've never offered before to us having all the information to make that proper decision. That's all. So my question was, how much difference does it make a month from a financial year point of view? I guess, is that right?
That's obviously up to council to decide on when they want to consider and start it. So as your point, I think was that they haven't been reimbursed prior. So, you know, if there's a delay, then so be it. I can't comment on whether that will impact any of the cruising in between. But yeah, it's up to council.
And from an administrative point of view for you though, it won't cause much more upset for it to happen not at the end of at the start of our financial year, from an accounting perspective and all of that.
Timing from an administrative perspective, as in from a financial perspective, is irrelevant.
Yeah, okay.
It's just that this is obviously is a recommendation that's come through from the operations group to the committee. The committee supported it. They considered it twice. Now reports come to council. So obviously there's support for it, and it's causing issues. But if there's further information required or we delay it, then yeah, so be it.
And I guess my point of the policy is, what is the intent of the policy then? If we're not, if it's gonna be the management process internally, then why do we have to consider it, if that makes sense?
So the suggestion was you wouldn't consider it,
It would,
because the intent of that point was that it outlines how we manage the implementation, to Councillor Schultz's comment around managing the process.
Yeah.
And that's why it was to be developed, because it's just a purely administrative process. But what I'm hearing though is that people are wanting additional information in that process. That's what I'm hearing. And then it may become more strategic than it is operational.
For me, the only part of the managing the process that I think we need to be feel comfortable with is that how we're going to control the budget, how we're going to manage that it doesn't go above the budget.
yeah,
I think that's all elected members really need to know in that process. And I guess that's probably what we're feeling like. We'd like to see the fees and charges come at the same time so that we know that's managed, that there's no change to long-term financial plans or annual business plans if the income offsets the expense that might be for this purpose. Councillor Davis?
Just a quick one. I don't have the numbers, obviously, but I don't think there's actually that many crew members who will take advantage of this. It's not many that come a long distance to volunteer. I know there are a couple in Adelaide, but it's not like it's the majority of the crew are going to be using this expense. Most of them stay around their local boats, Mannum people and Organ people, for example. So, talking about blowout, I don't think that's going to happen, because I don't think there's that many that will utilise this. It's just that it's there for those people that need.
And I guess in that process, then the wording is towards a big trip on a heritage vessel between 50 and 99 kilometres away from the relevant port. It doesn't say where their home base is, like, but if they're on holiday in Melbourne, do they get to claim from Melbourne to here? I guess that's where that policy needs to just highlight from their home base or from where they were staying, because they might have a shack in Melbourne, but they live in Adelaide, so we don't want them claiming if they were already up here anywhere.
I think further in the report, it did state something about the place of.
It does say from the place of residence.
Yeah,
in
but
the
this
footer.
motion
Does not, but not in the motion.
Maybe we should change the motion.
Yeah, from place of business or work.
So feeling of the room, we're about to go back into meeting. Do we have enough information? Do we think that it might be something that we should be deferring until the next meeting?
if it's just an internal process that is meant, then yeah, I guess it's okay.
And the wording?
I think the wording needs to be amended a little bit, just about, even though it says it in a policy, I think the motion needs to say place of residence, something along those lines, just to clarify. But you know what I mean, but it's not in the, I know it says it in the report.
And in the motion also says that it's
We've talked about
capped.
it at committee as well.
Capped at amount should go in the motion as well then, because we're saying how much we're going to give for each travel distance. But I'd like to have the motion also say that, yeah, it's, you don't think it's going to blow out, but that we say it in the motion that it's capped at the $12,000 for the year. So then there's no query later on that if it does go over, you're saying it won't anyway, Jen, but.
We'd be very surprised if it did. That's not the first thing.
Ben, do you have suggestions for that wording, just to make sure that's covered?
No, I don't. So, yeah, this, and like, with all respect, this is why we ask for feedback prior to the meeting, so we don't have to try to wordsmith things in the meeting. So, I'd rather give it some thought and propose a updated motion, unless Laura's got some wordsmithing that she can do.
I could try. My feeling is, let's just defer it one more month to get it right.
Do we? Remove it?
Yeah.
I'm happy to vote on it now with a few edits. In my, I mean, it's up to you,
All right,
obviously,
well,
but.
Nod of heads if you're happy to say suspend it for 5 more minutes while we wordsmith some things. There's everyone's nodding heads. Councillor Myers is going to be wondering what is going on.
He's probably thinking, we're never going to have the votes again.
Yeah, it's a shame he had to step out, because he's got a little bit more insight into this than I do. So.
Yeah.
It's interesting with a conflict, he could have still be engaged in discussion but not vote, right?
No,
Or he
it's
has to leave.
material.
If it's until you've got to leave. Yeah, right. Mhm.
Because he's a direct.
In
Yeah.
the old days, that was always happening.
Yeah, but no.
The wrong principle there, Carol.
She did just say that.
And how I remember that is Prince Pow at the school is your pal. To
That
be
sounds
developed,
better.
what about to be developed based on this report? Because if it's all in the report.
Or not in there. Like, I'm assuming they're all capped anyway.
That looks good.
And if you want the wording of the overall thing being capped at $200,000.
Well, I guess that automatically we're going to review that every year as a part of the budget
Yes,
setting.
we set a budget. Yeah,
So,
yeah, I don't.
That was going to be my comment that it's
yeah,
budget.
Mhm.
and every month we're going to find out the monthly reports too.
Can thoughts on a further report, be presented to the next council meeting, because otherwise it
Yeah,
could
sure.
be 3 or 4 months away.
Mhm.
Yeah, July. Sorry, is it July? 2025.
Yes, and then see how much it goes up.
Because then that doesn't matter about cutting, because if we put extra crews on, we get more income than.
And we don't have major crews.
Yeah.
All year,
So-
except they play all the time, but not.
Councillor Bartlett, you are the mover.
Yep.
Are you happy with this? So, reimbursement of travel expenses for volunteer crew members, a report on the council agenda be received, council endorses that volunteers, that is crossed out, is that?
Yes, the orders will say
Yeah.
that.
Volunteers who travel to crew on a heritage vessel with paying guests may claim the following reimbursement towards the the travel expenses calculated from the principal place of residence to the relevant port, and then all the figures with policy guideline to be developed based on the information in this report to manage the process, and the rest remains the same. You happy with that? Yes, councillor Davis.
Should it be calculated from their
Yes,
place of
yeah.
residence, not the?
Yep,
That's
there.
a bit
From
general.
the volunteers.
Principal place
From
of
their-
residence.
their
Principal place of residence.
Their principal place of residence. I think in the report it says all place of work, because some people must come from work to go there, which might be whichever's closest, they said in the report. But I don't know if that matters or whatever.
It might be something.
Yeah.
It would reduce the calculations.
Travel distance will be measured between the person's home and the dock.
In another part, it said the home or place of work, I saw in the report.
I think with that.
You might have edited it.
The policy developed based on the information in the report will cover that.
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Councillor Lowe, are you okay with that? Yes, councillor Davis, the seconder. Any further discussion on that? Would you like to close out, councillor Barlow? Forward.
Enough discussion on it.
Okay. If there's no further questions, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour? And against, that is carried. Thank you.
Maybe not.
Should I go on yet? That would be wonderful. It's probably.
Yeah,
I'll give you come out.
we came out.
Okay. I missed that bit, sorry.
Apologies to our presenters that are patiently waiting.
Yes. Thank you, councillor Myers. That was carried with a few minor adjustments, in that motion. 12.4 Murray River Lakes Huron Tourism Alliance extension of funding agreement. The recommendation is that the Murray River Lakes and Huron Tourism Alliance extension to funding agreement report on the council agenda 17th June 2025 be received. Council authorises the extension of the current funding agreement with the Murray River Lakes and Huron Tourism Alliance Incorporated for 1 year for an amount of $24,498.29 plus CPI. The CEO be authorised to execute the extension to funding agreement 1 July 2025 to 30 June 2026. We have a mover. Councillor Township, Pete, thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Waters, thank you. Councillor Township, Pete, wish to speak? No. Councillor Waters, wish to speak? No. Anybody else wish to speak? Councillor Barber?
Yeah, through the chair, a question for yourself and Ben is, do you feel that we get value for money of that membership?
Personally, yes, we do get a lot of value. They do a lot of promotion of our river assets, and Greg Sterling, the CEO and manager, has been doing a lot of work with Dark Sky. He's come on to our Dark Sky committee and he's moving that a lot further than we'd be able to move without that extra resource. So I think well and truly we get our money's worth on that. Ben, Gary's nodding his head, so Gary agrees.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Bailey, I totally support your comments. We have a great relationship with the organisation and Greg's done some amazing work through the Dark Sky, as you mentioned. So I think it's really good value and we definitely get a return on our investment for the region.
Councillor Hammond.
Just a question, obviously, because it's been dragging on this rezoning of the areas. We've been talking about it, I think now for 3 years of, oh, well, waiting on a report and now it's happening and it's going to be a different precinct situation happening. This 12-month extension obviously is for the interim of all of the ironing out of that stuff, of us then going into a group. Do we know much more information about like whether we're going to be seeing an extension in 12 months' time for this to be continually extended when we're in many different tourism alliances? Do we have a timeline on that?
Through you, Mayor Bailey, no, because they've not hit the targets of the timelines in the past. I think they've lost 7 out of 11 of the regional managers during this time, which is quite concerning. And so, you know, obviously we're trying to understand what the SATC is doing. They've obviously got some test cases there that they're looking, pilot programs. So that's the request, was to have 12 months to hopefully know where it's moving from there.
Yeah, watch this space. Any further questions, comments? If not, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour? Yes, that is carried. 12.5 Morgan Community Projects Public Consultation Results. But yeah, there's been a lot of discussion on this. I propose that we suspend the meeting for 10 minutes. Just nod of heads if you're agreeing that we suspend meeting. Yes. Okay, so
we've got to agree on the things.
We will have 10 minutes to discuss. Ben, do you want to start it?
So through you, Mayor Bailey, we've obviously gone through a process. We've asked for a number of feedback from the community, and we've been given, as a report, a number of different projects. Those projects haven't been costed, so the approach we're recommending is that council identify through the feedback and consultation from the community projects that you would like to be costed, that we would then bring them back to council, and then council makes a decision on those projects once they have that further information, and then we go back out to the community to understand what their priorities are. Given some of those projects that have been suggested will cost most likely more than the budget. We also need to consider ongoing maintenance costs and future costs as well as we consider the project. So that's probably it. I'll throw in some other ideas for council to consider at some point, but I'll open up to the group through you, Mayor Bailey.
Yep, so no pay hub or big W.
Some of the things that I
I
wanted
love
to
the
like.
kids' suggestions, so.
Oh.
Okay, who wants to speak? Councillor Barlow? Yeah, you meant to.
Yeah, look, my first thought was looking at the feedback that we received, there was so many different options there. But I don't see how we in this room can actually make a decision for that community as to where that money needs to be spent. I think that the community needs to get together, whether it be a mass community meeting, where they actually nut out certain projects that they think are more of a priority than others, that they can agree on.
So Ben's proposal is that we pick 5 or 6, they cost them, and then we go back to the community.
With those.
Because
The
there's
short
no point
list.
going back, because we're gonna have the same
Same
thing.
thing.
We did go to the public and we
did
had
have
all
a
of this, so
community
we need to probably pick a number of them that fit in within that budget. And then go back to that community, councillor Meyer.
All due respect to Councillor Barber's idea, but I'm sorry, it won't work in Morgan.
Yeah.
You'll get a group of people in the room and it would just be not functionable. You would end up at the end of the night no wiser.
I think after this consultation we've had extensive with the school as well and with the community groups and all of them, like part of me feels like something from the Cadell's top list, something from the Morgan community's top list, something from the kids' top list, to be like, if we are going to cost things, let's cost whatever the top kind of feelings were in those meetings we've already had. Like, so that's what was in the results of the surveys, the welcoming to Mannum Morgan signs, and the tree planting was something that was in there. $100,000 isn't a lot of money, and it's going to get whipped up pretty quickly. I think a lot of these projects we know are just pie in the sky concepts that are well out of the budget, should just be like not considered, because if they're over $200,000 in costings and we don't have a community group that's going to meet us with grant funding or whatever to be able to make some of those dreams come true, then it's just not viable. So I think we should be looking at things that are within, to give as much bang for the buck of what could be produced in $100,000, and based on their suggestions there, which were the highest rating of the surveys received and responses received. I think that's a good way to start, with just maybe looking at 3 or 4 things, not giving them too many options, because if we give them everything, kids want zip lines, they want a water park, we all want all these lovely things. And it's really sad that Morgan feels like they haven't really been considered in a lot of stuff, and that they are wanting stuff that we can't provide. And that's the saddest thing about hearing these feedbacks, is all the stuff we know, it's just out of our world to be able to give everyone all the things. So I think we look at things that are going to beautify the town, things that are going to show that we're putting a bit of effort into Morgan, and that are within construct of 100K, and that would require obviously Dave and Gary's input of how expensive certain concepts are, and what would you reckon is the best feelings of where could we spend 100K in 2 years based on those top suggestions?
Yeah.
When I look at some of the projects, they, like adult fitness things down near the playground so the adults can watch kids play. I've seen it in Blanchetown and I've seen it in Waikerie. They built a big water park, installed adult fitness stuff, and that stuff's sitting there rusting away 3 years after. It's all right to spend the money, but we've got to look at the long-term aspect of what that money's going to do. Whereas maybe signage to get more people into the town, I don't know what the real answer is, and I live up there.
Yeah, the motion leaves a gap for us to put some projects in. Ben said he's got some ideas.
I'd like to hear 'em.
Yeah, I'd like to hear the ideas.
I thought we think that MCDTA is the community group that all the ideas coagulate to. Why are we ignoring their suggestion? They've got it, in two lots of.
And they held a community meeting as well, by the way, we did have a community meeting.
I would be
So
inclined to go with
we
what
did
the
have one.
association. Because they're not proposing anything new, it's mostly upgrades and stuff.
Yeah. That's a good.
The kids just wanted a slide and some swings in some of the feedbacks. It's like, oh, we could give them a slide. We may not be able to give you a water park. And I looked into what a pump track is. Pump tracks look really awesome. And there's a lot of them in the community out there that seem like it's a lot better than a skate park, but costs a lot of money by the sounds of it. And they look incredible. But no, that's a private organisation that could do that.
Looking at the NCDTA stuff, I mean, they're all good, but toilet upgrades at the Morgan Institute, well, that's a council asset. That should be something council, I know we can't afford
It's a
it.
council asset, but it's leased out,
Yeah.
so if that's what the community wants,
Yeah.
they have been asking for it for a long time.
Yeah, yeah,
And I know the MCDPA had plans at one stage for that.
yeah, and in the second year, the Morgan Sporting Complex, well, that's leased to a group of people that knew there was no air conditioning in it. And so they should be out there getting grants.
And they are, I know that they talked to this group that are in the room today a lot about trying to get that. Councillor Chodgin Peak, then Councillor Davis.
Yeah, just my only brief comment is that I agree about MCDTA, but there's nothing there for Cadell. That's my only.
Well, the workers' camp was in Morgan, it was the Morgan community that was affected. I think Cadell came in because kids come from Cadell.
Right. I thought it might have been in between the two townships.
It's a Morgan project.
No, okay, yeah,
It's just
Morgan
a-
project.
It's just a Morgan Island,
Uh-huh.
I was at that MCDTA community meeting and there was a lot of ideas and a lot of them were operational things and things that money couldn't actually go towards anyway. I think a lot of the things that people want could be taken on by community groups or grants. But the big thing that's always been a thing amongst the kids is a skate park type of thing down in the riverfront. And there are expensive options and not as expensive options, so it's not necessarily digging out an area. Some of them sit on top of the ground. We have a lot of things for little kids. We don't have a lot of things for older kids and young people. And being down the riverfront, it would be good for the caravan park visitors as well and very visible. So that's been a thing for years, that those kids have always asked for something like that. And the welcome signs was a big thing,
And the
which we
information
talked
there.
about at the community meeting about welcome signs or signs, coming into a town. So at the meeting, I used an example of Mannum sign, which was done by the Progress Association, and the Cadell one was done by the CCTA, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think it's a council thing that have done those welcome signs, and it never has been as far as I know. So some people, they can sort of say, look, this is what we did, and this is what we did, ownership, and the same with the skate park up here. It's something for not just the local kids, but the kids that come into town. So they were the two big ones for me, but there's lots of little ones as well, like the dog park out the front of Landseas and that little pocket of land, which was one of the ones mentioned. But all the other little things I think could be taken on by community groups and grants, etc. And one of the things we discussed is that we didn't want it to be sort of frittered away on things that weren't tangible, things that don't take ownership on. So yeah, that's just my view.
So we're up to the 10 minutes.
Go
No
another
offense, if you agree to go 5 more minutes, I think what we need to do is get a little list.
Yeah.
Yes, the motion's missing that, and I think Ben did say that he's got some ideas, so.
Instead of the skate park, the pump track, when I went into the deep diving, looking into them, they can be as small as we can budget. They don't have to be huge.
Yes, and that's discussed.
They can be used for all accessibilities. They're for wheelchairs as well. They're for people with roller skates and other things, not just bikes or kids on skateboards. So part of me felt like if it's something that is going to be for tourism, disabled accessibility as well is a big thing of any upgrades I think we do. And for me, looking into the ones that are made, there's this really great company that's made quite a few of them here in South Australia, in Brighton and other places for South Australian businesses and councils. And they work within your budget, and there's different materials you can use for them. They don't have to be bitumen, they could be dirt. They can be done in different ways. And when I went into looking into that, I was like, instead of thinking of skate parks and how we do the expense and dangers around skate parks and concrete and the one at Mannum, These are more like a cute little scenic thing that can go around trees that are a little bit more in keeping with the riverfront landscape.
Okay, any further, I guess, ideas? This is probably what we need to do.
Can we hear Ben?
Section.
Yeah, Ben?
Hang on a second. Sorry, you there?
Yep.
Yeah, look, I just asked from a tourism perspective internally about projects. A lot of them have been mentioned around that, skate park or kids playground on the riverfront. Councillor Myers, you have mentioned Pendles previously around the wastewater and stormwater. Obviously, the Canally still requires funding. That may not be specific something that the community has raised, but that will drive tourism and benefits to the region as well. And there'll be some outstanding funds. There's also been a mention of shade sails at the playground and or across the deck at the Pendles. Things that would be mentioned internally from a tourism perspective as well. The wharf there and erosion, there's some of the things that have been proposed.
I guess the pub track or the skate park.
Oh,
Signs.
Yeah,
The signs.
I think the signage will be quite popular.
And that was a very big thing in the meeting.
Yeah.
And sorry, I might not have mentioned that, Mayor Bailey, if I didn't, signage is definitely something that I think would help the town significantly.
And a bit of beautification around those signages.
It also helps with Canally, and one of the things that we pointed out, sorry, I should have my mic on, is that a lot of people don't actually know there's a river in Morgan. They'll come in from the borough side and drive right through. Oh, we didn't know there's a river there. So even little signs on the street posts, even on the toilets or something, saying other facilities down by the riverfront, or just a river sign to river. Something as simple as that could make a huge difference to Morgan.
So we have 2 more minutes. We've got a few things there. Does anyone else want to add anything in particular? Because obviously there's council resource going to go into this to cost the project, so we don't want too many, but we do want ones that will.
Can I just add that whatever project you come up with, can there be some sign recognising that this was from the Downer money? So when the people from Morgan go down there, do you understand where I'm coming from?
Yeah, so it's advertised how
In
this is
conjunction
done.
with the Mid-Murray Council.
Yeah,
In
that's
conjunction.
right.
I think the dog park should be included in there because obviously with tourism growth and popularity growth, that's something that doesn't necessarily have to cost a huge amount of money. That obviously was quite high up there on people's sentiments of safe places. And that'll help us as well with making sure there's safe places for people with their dogs in the town. If there's seems to be quite a lot of dog walkers and a dog community in Morgan that seem quite relevant.
It's also good for tourism.
It's good for tourism, good for lots of
Caravan
things.
people. Close to the caravan park.
Can I ask Dave and Gary if there's anything on that list that you'd put a line through straight away at funding?
Yeah, that's a good
from
question.
a funding point of view.
Yeah.
Sorry, don't laugh.
That's good.
Yeah.
All of them. They're all greens.
Through the LRCIP projects, we developed a bit of a matrix, which highlighted, and you can actually put weightings in it, which highlighted whether it was a sustainable project, whether it was existing projects, or it's a new project. So what we did was through the LRCIP projects, we actually listed a lot of things in there, and that gave us a score rating at the very end of it. So we could actually utilise that process for this as well, highlighting that if you're going to rebuild something that's already got new life in it, like you don't want to do that if it's still got 20 years life in it, so you're going to rebuild it. So you work through the process and say, okay, well, what do you want to achieve at the end of it, and to be a sustainable, or as a new project, or as an old project, or as a requirement, and what the greater benefit is, whether it's regionally, locally, or town specific. And we've got weightings in there, so we're going to use a matrix to sort of bring this out.
And Dave, how much did the Blanchetown, welcome to Blanchetown sign cost?
That's through chair. It's fairly significant because it's a huge sign. It's basically a replica of a smaller version of the lock. I think that, to be honest, I think I'm probably looking at around about 50K.
Yeah.
All up. I know at Wakefield we did a lot of town interest statements which reflected the town, and they were all site specific versus the town, the LED lighting, and at the time when I left, they were 35K a shot. So they weren't cheap to do. They'd be a lot more now because that was 7 or 8 or 10 years ago now. But they are a fairly significant investment. But I know that we did respond to Councillor Forrester at the time in relation to the entrance statements and what it would be the cost to do. And I do have that figure somewhere, but we've just got to throw that in the mix.
I would say, that would obviously, depend like on what you did. And obviously you could have local people in the town who are, someone's a stonemason or something, who could take on that sort of thing. So it, you
I'd
know,
like to
it
see
doesn't
done in
have to be,
conjunction with MCDTA.
yeah.
The question
and
is,
there's
where
that
do you,
as well,
where do you
like,
put it? Because you've got
Mm.
entrance from Borough, you've got entrance from
You do,
Renmark,
yeah,
you've got
you do.
entrance from Adelaide.
Yeah, I know, that is the thing.
Okay, we are out of time. We've got a bit of a list there. Is everyone happy to go back into the meeting and someone can propose a list as opposed to that recommendation? Because, just to remind that it will come back to council and then we will go back to consultation. So we can still.
I thought we moved the motion, sorry.
No. Okay, so we're back in council meeting. The recommendation is that the Morgan Community Projects Public Consultation Results Report on the council agenda of 17th June 2025 be received, and the following projects be posted for further consideration by council prior to further consultation being undertaken with Morgan and surrounding communities to determine preferred projects. And then we have that list, the Carroll Road, which is the above, skate park, Pendles, Canali, shade sails across playground and Pendles, wharf, pump, skate park again, signage, dog park. Would someone like to move? Councillor Myers, would you like all of those in your recommendation?
Yeah, give it a go.
Give it a go?
See, if you're going back to consultation again.
Yes.
Did you say though before that the shade sails have already been put up? So we don't-
We just spent $60,000 on shade sails. at the
Yeah, the
playground.
poles are in, but
Yeah, it's a $60,000 project.
Get rid of playground, just.
And just Pendles.
Shade sails at Pendles.
Yeah,
Did you want to include the Pendles project?
well, that's up to council because really council asset, they should be.
updated anyway.
Yeah,
Or the whole of everything we're doing is council assets?
yeah, yeah, but
That particular.
it's a matter whether you use
They're-
down the money
But
or.
there possibly won't be funding for. Whereas there
leave
is
it in there
funding,
then.
yeah. Okay,
They need to take the shade sales completely out because they're already up
what about shade sales at Pendles?
This is
That
a
was some
Pendles
of the
one.
discussion in the
That's what I'm
consultation.
on the deck.
Yeah,
I thought the MCDTA had money to do that.
I think that's probably true, you do think, you're right.
Yeah.
Oh, we can remove
take
that.
that one off.
Okay. Look at us, we're
Take
shortlisting
shade
it.
sale at
Let's
Pendles
see if we can
off.
shortlist it down to 5.
Can
so
I
it's not
suggest
gonna
we take
cost
the
us.
wharf off, because that's.
Yeah, I agree.
back
Yeah,
to
wharf off.
recreation.
Yeah,
I agree too.
And I'm not
Just
sure
go
about-
to nothing.
and I'm not sure about the canali, what, it'd be good to have everything that we do able to have a sign, as you said, a
Mm.
plaque on it to say
I
that.
agree, I don't.
And
know
I just don't know how that would
Look at
bring
us.
the canali is such a
Thing
vast.
is, if it's not included here and there's $50,000 work, is council going to be able to find the money or is it going to be able to sit unfinished? Thing I like about the canali being included is then we get feedback as to whether the community actually want us to spend more money on the canali, especially from the Morgan community.
And I personally think that $100,000 is probably not even gonna do the plans for a skate park.
No.
Yeah, no, but so this is
So
just,
just
it's
leave
going
the-
to be costed prior to, so if the skate park comes at 250,000, I'm sure that we'll mention it in our consultation that we did get costings of this and it was outside the scheme.
Ah.
Just so they're
Did the
aware that
canali
we
come up
tried.
in the consultation?
No, that's why Ben
No.
added that, because it's a concern that we don't have the money to finish it, so it might be something we want to get community feedback on with it.
And can I just add, sorry, through there, we've got, I'm not sure where we're at.
We've not approved yet.
Right, okay. So can I just add that I remember also when we did our public consultation up at the MAC, there was a bit of discussion around the toilets and the institute.
Yeah,
and
that's, I
come
was
up
just gonna
here.
say,
So I'm wondering if that's worth putting.
would you
on the
like to
list?
add that one to it?
Oh, you could put it on the list,
Yeah.
but
It was discussed at the meeting as
All
well.
right, so
Yeah.
councillor Myers is moving that motion with the skate park / pump track, Pendles upgrade, canali, signage, dog park and toilets at the institute. You okay with that list?
Yep.
Anything else you want to add?
If not, have we got a seconder? Councillor Davis, thank you.
$500,000 worth of stuff.
Councillor Myers, do you wish to speak on that?
Couple of mil.
No, I think we're spoke enough.
Yep, okay, councillor Davis, do you
No, I
wish to
think
speak?
we're-
No, anybody else wish to speak or have any questions? If not, we'll put that motion up, all those in favour, and against, that is carried, thank you. 12.6, Chief Executive Officer's Monthly Report. The recommendation is that CEO Monthly Report on the council agenda of 17th of June be received. Do we have a mover? Councillor Davis, Councillor Barber is seconding that. Councillor Davis, do you wish to speak or ask any questions? Councillor Barber?
Keep doing what you're doing, Ben. Doing well, keep yourself busy.
Good job, Ben. Anyone else have any questions, comments? If not, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour and against, that is carried.
Sorry, I thought that was muted, but it wasn't.
Motion action list. The recommendation is that the motion action list report on the council agenda 17 June 2025 be received. We have a mover. Councillor McPeak, a seconder. Councillor Schultz, thank you. Any, would you like to speak on that? No, Councillor Schultz, no. Anybody else who can speak? Any questions? If not, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour and against, that is carried. 13.1, transfer station sustainability review operations. And we do have a slightly amended recommendation here. The recommendation is that the transfer station sustainability report on the council agenda 17th June 2025 be received. Council endorses the transfer station opening hours and schedules for the 25-26 financial year. Transfer stations will remain closed when the forecast for the day is 40 degrees Celsius and over. Council investigates the implementation of rural recycling and township green waste curbside services. A further report be provided to council on the implementation of increased curbside services, which includes the consideration of the ongoing viability of each of council's transfer stations and its operations. We have a mover. Councillor Davis and Councillor McPeak, do you wish to speak, Councillor Davis?
Not really, it's just that that's a good idea.
Councillor McPeak? Yep.
Just to say I support that change because I suggested it.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak on that? Councillor Hammond?
I just have a query in regards to the hard waste voucher system now going to obviously this solo automated on the phone app that will be sending out QR codes to people. I guess my only concern has come from an elderly resident that isn't really very equipped with using a mobile phone and doesn't really have a smart mobile phone that us younger gen have. A lot of elderly people in our community still are using old, 5G, but just very basic, simple structures of their phones because they hate technology and they don't want to engage with technology. Are we going to have like some kind of leeway for those residents and ratepayers that would prefer to have an actual ticket in their hand than having to worry with a QR code from something that they can't get on their phone even? I think there's a bit of a gap there still with our generation out here being an aging population that haven't really taken on that technology. And now we're saying that's going to be the only way and we're not going to be providing. So I'd love to know whether we've got a grey area there that we can still provide vouchers on request.
Through the chair, there's always grey areas when we implement new issues and even with the old voucher system as well. Solo actually operate this system right across a lot of councils, so I'm sure they've got an implementation in place. They'll have a register of who's got the curbside waste pickup, so they know they're eligible. If they can't provide it through a smartphone, we'll be working with Solo as to how we get it to them.
Yeah, okay. Just to make them reassured.
Great work. Thank you, Dave. Anyone else wish to speak or have any questions on that item? Councillor Barber?
Through the chair, I just, obviously it's in the motion that the transfer stations will be reviewed later on. But I think that at the moment, some of the more isolated stations being open for 1 hour a month, you may as well close them down anyway, because it's just not practical for people to use them for 1 hour a month, which is a shame.
It is a shame, but we also have a lot of transfer stations across the valley. As a third of our side only has one, so I think we are providing a good service, and we do need to cut back. Any further questions, comments? Councillor Switch? Yeah.
I just had a question about the vouchers have come out from Solo, but does council still take the applications and then pass them on to Solo?
Through the chair, basically it'll be off-site from us. All our staff were doing it administratively. It took a lot of time for admin to do it. Like I think it was about 1,500 last year. So what we're doing is doing it through Solo. So they'll have all the list of who the people are. They'll do it administratively over there, and they'll be able to provide reports to us. And if there are any implications, they'll be able to provide us any details that we need to work through. And like I said, it is operational in other councils. So we're sort of hoping for the same sort of success here.
Sorry, so does everybody then get vouchers, or do you still have to apply?
You still need to apply, and it's only people that actually have a domestic curbside pickup wastes service that actually are valid to get them. There are other service provisions that we do, like for the Lions and so forth. We have done that by way of letter in the past. So what we're looking at doing is obviously if you've got the Lions Club with Keysap and Blanchetown and all these other areas, we'll be providing probably say 6 per year or whatever it be. So there will be the provisions of extending that service.
Thank you, Dave. Any further questions? No, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. 14.1 minutes of the Dark Sky Committee meeting. The recommendation is that the minutes of the Dark Sky Committee meeting held on the 27th of May 2025. Report on council agenda of 17th of June be received, and the minutes of the Dark Sky Committee meeting held on the 27th May 2025 be received. Councillor Hammond is moving that. Councillor Barber is seconding. Would you wish to speak, Councillor Hammond? Councillor Barber? Anybody else? No, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour and against, that is carried. 14.2 minutes of the Mid-Murray Heritage and Maritime. The recommendation is that the minutes the Mid-Murray Heritage and Maritime Committee meeting held on 22 May report on the council agenda of 17th of June 2025 be received, and that the minutes of the Mid-Murray Heritage and Maritime Committee meeting held on the 22nd of May 2025 be received. We have mover, Councillor Barber, thank you. Seconder, Councillor Hammond, thank you. And do you wish to speak, Councillor Barber, Councillor Hammond? Yep. Anybody else? Any questions? If not, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour and against, that is carried. 15.1, the recommendation is the Mayor's monthly report on the council agenda 17th of June 2025 be received. The mover, Councillor Barber, seconder, Councillor Davis, thank you. And I'd just like to remove the school governing council meeting because it's cancelled last night. Would you wish to speak on that, Councillor Barber? You don't have to.
Good job, keep it up.
Councillor Davis, do you wish to speak? Anybody else wish to speak or have questions? Councillor Township.
This is something that can be taken on notice. I haven't seen how we're going, but the unveiling of the military headstones for World War I veterans. I'd be interested to know a bit more about that at some point.
Well, I can do a quick 1 minute on it. It was an amazing group, not-for-profit group, who searched cemetery registers to find people born between 1870 and 1900 that are male. And then they go to the war registry to see if they served, and then they check if they've got a headstone, and there's many that haven't. So we unveiled one on the weekend who didn't have a headstone. At the time, you know, might have been a depression and family needed to eat rather than do headstone. So they're very, very slightly funded by the state government, but not. So I actually said to them, because they've got 400 people on the list to do headstones, and I think they get something like 70,000 a year funding. And I said, oh, if you come to me, like there's so many groups in each of our beautiful communities that would probably help with this. So if anyone is interested in that, they're definitely looking for volunteers to help them with the research work. Very great organisation, really good people doing good things, and I'll volunteer. Thank you for asking.
Awesome.
Okay, so move a seconder. Any further questions? If not, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour and against, that is carried. Elected members reports. The recommendation is that the elected members monthly report on the council agenda 17th of June be received. We have mover, Councillor Barber, thank you. A seconder, Councillor Davis, thank you. Wish to speak, Councillor Barber? Yes.
Through the chair, yes, I apologise for not getting my report in for the public holiday through me.
Councillor Davis?
I would like to also make that apology. Yes, the public holiday threw me as well and did not get it to you. Ooh, next month will be big.
Anyone else wish to speak or have comments, questions, feedback? If not, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour? And again, that is carried. 7. Oh, sorry, I already did that. We've closed out deputations. Motions with notice, there are nil. Questions with notice, they are nil. Questions without notice, councillor Davis.
Yeah, I sent an email on Friday to Ben, Gary and David, and I haven't got a response yet, so I thought I'd just share that with the group. I'll just read it out, I think. Hi all, I have some very concerned residents in Morgan who are horrified at the recent Giraffe River Structures Asset Management Plan where it says that the Morgan Wharf will be demolished in the next 10 years. Please see attached letter that one resident is sending to June. There'll be no discussion regarding this at HMC meetings. Can I please get some clarification on this proposal? There's an email underneath, obviously, that I can share with you that was sent to you regarding this. I actually think it's probably just a bit of a typo because it says the wharf, and maybe it should say the section of the wharf that is needing repair. If you read the report, it does actually say the wharf. And so, you know, they're thinking that council's going to knock down the wharf in the next 10 years. So I just need some clarification and preferably in writing so that I can pass this on to people concerned.
Through the chair, we will respond. We've done a bit of an investigation into the report as well. Obviously, there's a bit of context to the whole document.
Yeah.
And I think there's also a reference to it in the risk assessment where things reach end of life, where it states that it's demolished or whatever you do.
Yeah.
We've also looked in the long-term works program. There's $1.6 million in there to do work.
Yeah.
There is a portion of the wharf which should be demolished, and yeah, if it's a typo, we'll work through that. But yeah, obviously there's through the flood damage, I think we've received an engineering report which actually has come back at about 2.5 million for repairs to that area. So it's the level of investment the council wants to put towards it. But obviously we're just highlighting that if something does reach an end of life, it's either demolished or you need to rebuild it. So that's the process when we're looking.
And that's how I understood the report.
Yes.
But the way that it reads says the wharf, you know, and that's not being utilised, and then it's, you know, at end of life order, it's going to be demolished. So I think it's just the wording. I think it's the way it reads is a bit concerning, and I can see their concern.
Yeah, that's not the intent of the document.
No.
Obviously, with the allocation of $1.6 million in 4 years.
Yeah, and I see that, and I understand it personally, but anybody else that doesn't, yeah, I don't know, it needs to be a bit clearer, I think. And I don't know if that can be changed.
Thank you. Kevin, do you have a councillor Myers?
Yes, last meeting, we moved a motion to cost the wastewater system at Pendles. Is there any action or? Somebody.
I'll take that one on notice. No, not at this point in time. I haven't actually followed up on any details in regards to wastewater. So no.
You want me to get a costing?
Anything would help.
It is on their way within resources. Councillor Hammond.
Yes, I have a question about notice as well. I've been made aware from members of Landcare that a while ago we did a community lands audit run by Amy Linky in regards to our community land assets, sort of stating who gifted the lands, for what reason, and what infrastructure might be on the land, what trees of significance and whatever. As we are looking into our lands and the reclassification of community lands in regards to how we might be proceeding with some of them to be sold, I was wondering if this information could be provided to us, just so we get a bit of a clearer understanding around some of those community lands and how their history might be of how they've been donated to us in the first place often. I was wondering, yeah, that I just found out about this document and wanted to know if we could get a copy of it provided, and it could be then informing our decision around what lands we look at in community lands to be reclassified.
Thank you, Ben. you okay?
Yeah, we'll have to take that on notice, and investigate that.
Thank you. Any further questions without notice? If not, we will move on to confidential reports. Have we got somebody to move us into confidence with that recommendation? Councillor Davis, Councillor Hammond, anyone wish to speak on that? If not, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour? And against? I don't think everyone voted.
Oh, sorry.
All those in favour? Yes, and against, that is carried. You are welcome to come back in the room.
Yes, hello, you can come back on in, yes.
Next meeting will be held at Mannum Council Chambers, Adelaide Road, Mannum at 9:30 a.m. on Tuesday, the 15th of July, 2025. I declare the meeting at 12:23 p.m. Thank you very much.